What's up, Knicks fans? We are so excited to announce that this summer, Fanatics Fest is returning to New York City, taking over the Javits Center from Thursday, July 16th to Sunday, July 19th. Meet your favorite athletes from every major league, including current New York Knicks like Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Knicks legend Patrick Ewing. Catch live podcasts and panels featuring some of the biggest names in sports while experiencing interactive activations from top leagues and brands. You can grab exclusive merch and discover one-of-a-kind memorabilia from sports and entertainment. Buy, sell, and trade collectibles with hundreds of top dealers. Connect with fans around the world who share your passion for sports. Tickets are on sale now at fanaticsfest.com. And when you use promo code KNICKSFILM10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your purchase. It's an extra day of the world's #1 sports fan festival coming together under one roof, and you don't want to miss it.
All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by FANATICS Sportsbook. How funny would it be if I started this off with guys, don't worry. It's all good. It's January. And you know what? They're tired. They're tired. It's January. The NBA Cup was, listen, the Cup was only 34 days ago, 33 days ago. That's like yesterday. And they've only had 3 consecutive nights sleeping in their own bed. That's just not enough. It takes at least a week to get used to sleeping in the same bed. No. The Knicks are broken. Full stop. We've been talking now for a month, better part of a month, about kind of what's off. That conversation has ramped up, I think, in a serious way over the last 2 to 3 weeks about, is it on court? Is it off court? Is it, X's and O's? Is it personnel? Is it the coach? Is it the best player? And we're around and around and around, leading to a podcast I did with Jeremy last night, in which I said a lot of words over the course of an hour, and I don't think I actually said anything. And now we can put all that behind us because we have arrived at a point of finality. And the finality is that this team is broken. They are broken with a capital B. And there is no crazy glue. There is no nothing to fix. When a team gets to this point, there is nothing to fix it if it remains as currently constituted. And I will say one more time for emphasis, the Knicks as currently constituted are broken. And here's where I've come down. I think we have to break this down into three different categories. Category one is what is the proper descriptor of this team right now. Category number two is in terms of where does the conversation about this team need to go now? And then category number three is how do we get here? And in discussing how we got here, we could begin to at least formulate theories about how to get out of it. So let's start with number one, which is what exactly are we talking about here? And I think the way to frame that is this a team that is broken, as I said, to start, or is this a team that has quit? And for most of the game, I was going with the quit one. Now, you could if you quit on your coach, you are also broken. But if you're broken, you haven't necessarily quit. And there were just enough instances of the Knicks actually playing hard in this game for spats of possessions. I don't. You could say it was just out of pride. But if you want to make a point on national television to everybody that very vocally and unequivocally says we're done playing for this coach, period. I don't even think you put forth the effort that the Knicks did on a couple of those possessions that they did, which is why I think quit is not the more accurate descriptor. Broken, to me, is more accurate because that is a basketball team that went out there without any semblance of belief in itself, that had been shaken to its core, that didn't, to say nothing. I mean, obviously, they did not want to be out there. They didn't want to be out there, period. They didn't want to be out there with each other. And then you kind of veer back towards the quit part of it because it's like there was no following of any game plan on either end of the floor. But to me, broken is more accurate because you looked at how they were going about playing, and it was like it's like they were like the thing that I think still exists to some extent in all of these players that existed when they were little kids, where they played the game for the love of it. That obviously gradually goes down the longer you're a pro, but it was at 0%. It was on empty. None of that was there. Like absolutely none of it. And they had been sapped of any semblance of like the thing that you need to just show up and play. I don't know what other word there is for it. They were broken. That's what a broken basketball team looks like. They were broken individually and they were broken collectively. So I think that's the important place to start off. Again, and sorry, before we get to the next point, I think it is important to establish that yes, there were some players out there who were broken individually, 100%, but that was collective. That was a collective lack of belief in each other, a collective lack of belief in the coach, a collective lack of belief in what they were, the very purpose for being there, to actually, again, ostensibly play a basketball game, which again, it verges on quit, but I feel more comfortable with broken. So then we get to category 2. And category 2 is what happened and how did we get here? And I will pose a theory. And this is my theory. I haven't heard anything specifically. Again, this is me. So you have a situation where you had a coach who was fired because certain players were unhappy. And yes, he was an asshole to everybody around him. And that was ultimately the reason why, it was where the genesis of the spirit behind the firing came from. But the nail in the coffin were, the at least one player that has been reported, I'm pretty sure somewhere, that said, I don't know if I could play for him again. At least another player who probably, expressed maybe some displeasure with the experience of playing for Tibbs. And that gave Dolan the ammunition he needed to look Leon in the eye and say, so what are we doing about this here? So already you have as the genesis for the move, unhappiness. And the genesis of the move being unhappiness combined with the fact that you could be the biggest Tibbs fan in the world or you could be his biggest hater in the world. I bet you'd struggle to find a whole lot of people out there who would say that he does not have his teams extraordinarily prepared. It's always been the book on him. Most prepared coach in the league, has his teams the most prepared. You've heard ex-player upon ex-player upon ex-player say, I've never felt more prepared to play a basketball game than under Tom Thibodeau. And then so you had that as the past. And then you transition to a coach who is very much collaborative, as we've established. And also he wants to be in players' good graces, very clearly wants to be in players' good graces. And that is something that is a thing that was introduced into this ecosystem, whereas the former head coach couldn't care less if everybody on the roster hated him to the nth degree. It was all about, are they doing what they need to do? Am I putting them in positions they need to do? So now you have this new head coach. And right from the bat, for as much as he wants to be liked by everybody, there is a player that is not happy with him. And the player's name is Karl Anthony Towns. And again, you don't we're done reading between the lines. Like, it's out there. Enough people have spoken about it. If people haven't, if you're waiting for the Shams bomb or whatever you're waiting for, look, Cat doesn't like Brown. He hasn't liked Brown since training camp. You don't like him now. It's gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. Okay. So Cat feels this way about Mike Brown. And what does Mike Brown do with that situation? He doesn't retract. He doesn't change his approach. He doubles down. And he starts going at Cat publicly in the media, in post-game press conferences. And some of them have been doozies. 40-point game against the Timberwolves. What does Brown say? Well, what I really like to focus on is how he picked up those silly fouls. And there were a couple other instances like that. And then I thought it reached a crescendo, and credit to Jeremy Cohen, who pointed this specific thing out on the show that we did yesterday, where in what was an incident that was almost staggering to look at, where you had Draymond Green doing everything he did to Cat throughout the game and getting in his face and the whole thing. And then you see Mike Brown's response on the court with the hugging and the gesticulation. And as many people have pointed out, Tibbs dapped up, Draymond Green last year and the whole thing. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. But then when asked about it after the game, instead of saying anything negative about Draymond, that's how Draymond plays. Cat can't. It's on Cat. Cat can't pick up the silly fouls. Cat can't let it get to him. And that's the moment for me that it crystallized, where I'm like, oh, okay, this is now personal. And it has been personal from Cat towards Brown since the beginning of the season. But now is when it crystallized for me. It's personal going back in the other direction. And it has become personal for Mike Brown. Now, if it sounds like I'm putting all the blame on Mike Brown, I implore you to be patient. Trust me, be patient. But it has become personal for Brown. And how do I know it has become personal for Brown? And this is why I brought up the Tibbs thing from before. Because with Tibbs, these people, they weren't even people to him. And not that to say he didn't care about his players. I joke about that sometimes. Of course, he's a human being. He cares about his players to a certain extent. But Thibodeau's purpose for being there was always only just about winning. Everybody was a tool towards winning basketball games. It's the only thing the man cared about. Wasn't married, no kids, no grandkids. It was his whole life was about winning basketball games. And it was all about how can these pieces that I have been given further that. And which is why when you had players last year who were actively disliking this coach and not being bashful about it. Again, the Mikal Bridges thing that he said the day of the Portland game was talk about the quiet part, shouting it from the rooftops. Said the thing that he knew would get under his head coach's skin the most. Did not like Tibbs. I think there's at least one other. I know there's at least one other player on the roster who didn't like Tibbs, and probably a few more. He's a very difficult man to like if you're not on his wavelength. And I'm sorry, very few people are on his wavelength. But when you have a man walking into work every day that is giving literally everything of himself just to get wins, even if you despise the man, you can at least look at the situation and say, he's a fucking jerk off, but man, I know if I do what he says, I'm probably going to at least have a decent chance to win this game. And we have enough talent here to actually really make this thing work. And I thought what you saw from last season over the last 3.5 months of the year, where I was told repeatedly that was an X's and O's thing. It was because Josh Hart was starting. No, these players didn't like each other last year. Some of them didn't like Tibbs and some of them didn't really care for each other. And that's why you saw that starting lineup look like it did from January 1st, roughly until the end of the year. But when push came to shove, there was still enough togetherness in that locker room because it wasn't all because of Tibbs, but for whatever bad Tibbs did, he at least brought that one thing. It was a commitment to winning above all else. And so even the players that hated him, this, that, and the other thing, and we saw it. Look, were they perfect in the playoffs? God, no. I've made this point repeatedly. They let us on, if anything. because of how far they got. The path to get there was very, very ugly. But they never let go of the rope because of this thing that I'm talking about, and because they're extraordinarily talented. Now, when they fired Tibbs, I got on here and I said, I think you had to do it, because I don't know how you go forward as an organization if you have players that are actively disliking the man that they have to report to. But again, I'm going to give credit to one of my colleagues, Benji Ritholtz, as he said again and again and again and again, if you go fire the man, that's fine, but you better nail the right hire. And we talked again and again about what kind of person they should hire to replace Tom Thibodeau. And the one thing that was dismissed out of hand was a coach who was similar to Tom Thibodeau, because why would you go from Tibbs to Tibbs, i.e. Mike Brown? And we thought the emphasis would be on reaching the players. And now we come back to today, and you have a head coach who clearly has a way about going about things with players, and he is not going to back down from that. And that does not work with Karl Anthony Towns. And I think Mike Brown has let that get to the point where the rest of the locker room, who, by the way, I don't think any of these guys like Cat. I don't think, but I think with Brown, or maybe not like Cat, but like respect Cat as a basketball player and respect what he is currently bringing onto the team. But when you have players now who are looking at this coach by going out there and actively losing a guy and pushing away a guy, that doesn't matter what Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OJ, doesn't matter what any of these guys think about Karl Anthony Towns, about his antics or about what makes him tick or this and the other thing. They're smart enough to know they need him. Why? They need him to win. If they don't have him on board, they don't stand a chance. And I think it has gotten personal. And I think they know it has gotten personal, and they're looking at this situation and they're saying, shit. We went from a guy who would chew off his own arm just to give us the best possible chance to win. How many times do you think Tom Thibodeau wanted to pull out what was left of the few hairs on his head over things that Karl Anthony Towns did on the basketball court last year? And how many times in press conferences was he asked about those sorts of things? And you know what Tom Thibodeau said every time in response to those questions? He said, you guys don't see what Cat's doing. Cat was great for us tonight. Cat, great on the defensive glass. And he would run through the laundry list of all the things Karl Anthony Towns did well. And what a coincidence. Steph Bondy comes on this podcast a week ago and he says, you know what's funny about Karl Anthony Towns? Unprompted. Time and again. Love for Tibbs. Oh, well, you think Mike Brown's doing good. Guess who did that last year? Tom Thibodeau. This is all out there. This is all right there. None of this is hidden. So now you have these players sitting here observing the situation, observing the head coach losing this player who they know they need. What the fuck do you think they're going to go out there and do? They're looking around like, Jesus Christ, this thing is falling apart at the seams. And this is what you get. That is how you get a team that was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And now we're sitting here having conversations about whether this era of Knicks basketball is over. And now the question is, what do you do about it? I think the obvious temptation is going to be to try to trade Karl Anthony Towns for every fan that watches this team. And I want to just be very clear about this. That was all about Mike Brown, because Cat was on the team last year and he was dealt with, and you showed enough of an ability to win with this player. However, as we know, he is a finicky personality, and on top of the finicky personality, he is also someone that has been not very good this year. And well, I think that I would guess that Cat has gone out of his way behind the scenes. Again, just listening to the press conferences. That's all I'm doing. I'm just listening to the press conferences, listening to the things he has said in public. If you don't think a guy that has gone out there and said the things that he has said about Mike Brown publicly is maybe voicing that displeasure or his role in the offense, I shouldn't say about Brown himself, but like his role in the offense and how, I don't know what I'm here to do and this, that, and the other thing. If you don't think that he's being a little bit more vocal about it behind the scenes and that isn't, and again, so let's say it's coming from Cat, and that Brown is just responding the only way he knows how. Okay, Cat's at fault. Great. You want to trade Cat? Wonderful. A week ago, Trae Young, who has been described on more than one occasion by smart basketball people as the point guard version of Karl Anthony Towns in terms of incredibly offensively gifted. You're never going to be able to win at the highest level because of the defense he plays and the position he plays. Trae Young has $46 million on this contract this year and has a $49 million player option. He's also younger by 2 or 3 years than Karl Anthony Towns. He was salary dumped to the one team in the league because Trae's people tried to go to Brooklyn. They tried to go to wherever else did they try to go to Milwaukee, Minnesota. And they're like, yeah, no, we're good here. We're not. The Nets were like, yeah, we'd rather have cap space. The Timberwolves were like, yeah, we're not giving up any important piece of our team. And so he went to they worked out a deal with the one team that would take him, and he was salary dumped. That's all it was. It was a salary dump. And the Hawks were happy. They got expiring salary. And that was what Trae Young went for. Karl Anthony Towns, I'll say it again. Trae Young, $46 million this year, $49 million player option. Karl Anthony Towns, $53 million this year, $57 million next year, $61 million player option the year after that. What do you think for a player that is on the other side of 30 and is having the least efficient season of his career? What do you think he is going to fetch on the trade market? I did it the other day. I went through 29 teams. You could go rewatch it. Go rewatch the live stream I did. Went through every team. And I asked the same question. Would this team want Karl Anthony Towns? Would this team want Karl Anthony Towns? And yeah, you could if you squint hard enough, you could probably find a team that might want Karl Anthony Towns, all things being equal. Only they're not giving up anything good to get him. They're giving up their own bad money to the extent that there is bad money still out there. And it's a shuffling of the deck chairs situation. And where the Knicks are at right now, where they know they have a roster that is good enough to make the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and had it not been for a once-in-a-blue moon event, probably would have made the finals, and I think they would have had a decent chance in the finals had they got there. They know that the roster is capable of that if everybody is on board and rowing in the right direction, and most importantly, you have a bought-in version of Cat, or at least the most bought-in version of Cat that we know can exist. Are they going to try to do a Karl Anthony Towns salary dump? Because that's what it would be. It would be a salary dump. Or are they going to do something else? And I think, look, I don't know how else to say this, but I don't know what else. What's the other option? Because what you saw there, that's not all right. Everybody, hit the showers. Let's get a good night's rest. We'll get him tomorrow. No. Whatever. They might come back and they might be hot in the first quarter against Brooklyn, and they might smoke the Nets. It doesn't matter. If a team is capable of doing that, with doing what we just saw, you cannot go stick your head in the sand. And Stephen Bondi already reported that multiple times, reported that the owner, James Dolan, left his seat at halftime and did not return to his seat. We know what that means. I was at a game, one of our Knicks Film School outings against Oklahoma City a few years ago, where they weren't trying at all. And I think it was, what was the final score? 135 to 125 or something like that. 145 to 135. I forgot what the score was. It was an abhorrent effort. And I had heard that night that James Dolan read his people the riot act. And that was when the opening salvo was. And then, ironically enough, where the axe almost came down was after the Dallas game. Funny enough, who did they play tonight? And there were a lot of people who I think have reported since then that if Tom Thibodeau lost that next Cleveland game, he would have been out as coach. So it is not above this organization and this owner to react to a game like that with a very serious and a very immediate move. And I'll just be blatantly honest. I think Mike Brown is a nice man. I think he's a good coach. He's a good coach in a vacuum. This situation here, and obviously he's a good coach in a vacuum because the Knicks look like world leaders a month ago. We could talk about the defense and how that was never right. And yes, Mike Brown wanted to come play in a more aggressive style of defense. But if you actually get maximum effort and buy-in, that defense can work. So it's not about Mike Brown being a bad coach. It's not about him being a bad person. It's not about him being selfish or anything. But he has let this cat thing get away from him. And it has poisoned the well. And I feel like this stuff with teams, it's like it reminds me of a favorite movie of my daughters and mine. My older daughter, I don't think I've shown my younger one it. World War Z, where it's if the zombie bites you, Mark's laughing. Great freaking movie. If the zombie bites you, it's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. It gets up to 10 Mississippi, and Brad Pitt knows he has the 10 Mississippi, and he towards the end of, I don't want spoiler alerts for a movie that came out I think like 15 years ago. There's a scene in later in the movie where one of these things bites someone on the hand or on the wrist, and after about a second, Brad Pitt chops off the arm, and it saves the person's life. And it was because they got it in enough time. I think sports teams work the same way. I think if it is real poison, you don't and it's bad, you have to cut it off before it infects the whole. And tonight, for me, what I watched was a sign that poison has gone past the point of amputation, which means you now need a drastic change. And I should be clear because the analogy got a little messy there. I don't mean to suggest that if they did remove one of these personalities from the equation, that there's not a chance that this thing still couldn't be back on the right track. But I think that is what it is going. There's zero doubt in my mind that is what it is going to take. Zero doubt in my mind. So look, I'm sure we'll get some reporting tonight. I'll be keeping my phone on alert until the wee hours. Despite the fact that I won $60 on this game tonight, this does not make me happy. I know there's going to be people out there who are like, oh, you're probably a pig in shit because you love Tom Thibodeau. No, I love this team. And the reason I love this team, or the reason I love Tom Thibodeau, is because I believed always to my core. And it's why that I would get into these battles to the detriment of this media enterprise, and frankly, to my own personal detriment financially, because I knew every time that the fan base wanted him fired, and I would get up here and I would say what I believed. I knew that was hurting my wallet. I didn't care. I wasn't going to get up here and say something that wasn't true, something that I didn't believe. And it's not that I always believed Tom Thibodeau was right, but I always believed that at its core, that there was a method behind the madness. And it at the end of the day, if you had a talented enough team and you had a coach who was about the things that he was about, you would give yourself a chance. And there were people out there who would respond to my thoughts with, oh, yeah, Tom Thibodeau rescued a moribund franchise 5 years ago, so he can never do anything wrong. That was never what it was about. It was about a belief in what he was about. And the organization felt that it could no longer live with the approach given everything that came with it. And now we're here. And no, this doesn't make me happy. For the first reason that if the Knicks go back into the abyss, guess what? Knicks Film School isn't doing as good. And this shit pays my mortgage now. So no, I'm not happy. There is one part of me, though, that hopes, and it's just a silly thing to hope for because it's not going to happen. But that hopes that how this thing has gone so far foul and awry can make certain people out there at least have the humility to maybe be like, you know what? I might not have given enough consideration to every aspect of this thing. You know, I don't think we're going to get that, but you know, that's my only hope. But yeah. Oh, we got a quote from Mike Brown. Here we go. What's this here? Bottom line is we got to lock in and do our job for 48 minutes. There was nothing to be said at halftime except do your job. Okay. There you go. It's gonna turn the train around. Okay. I don't think I got anything else to say. I've been talking for 35 minutes. I apologize. But it's very bad right now. It's you know, if the worst is like the thing is done regardless of what they do, I don't think we're there yet. But again, as currently constituted, we're done. Okay. Let's check in on tonight's best bets. This should be fun. I actually think it is going to be fun for me because I think I hit my best bet. My best bet was Karl-Anthony Towns over 11.5 rebounds. Of course, I made that best bet because I figured the Mavs would miss a lot. They did not. So I hit my over on 11.5 rebounds. There was also by Jeff took the Knicks second quarter money line of 2.5. That only fell short by 21.5 points. So it was right there for the taking and just didn't quite get over the finish line. And then Andrew, true believer, took the Knicks giving 10.5 points. Again, fell slightly short of that one. So I'm the only winner, me. And I won putting it over on Karl-Anthony Towns. How you like them apples? Okay, giddy up. Oh, goodness. Let's see what people want. I wonder what people are going to want to talk about today. All right, but I'm going to say this publicly, Mark. So Mark just informed me that 13 super chats are from before the first half was over. 24 super chats in total are from before the game ended. And there's we have a lot more to get to after that. Before we get to any of those super chats, I just want to apologize to my guy, Kevin Danishevsky. Kevin Danishevsky sent in a couple of super chats during my show with Jeremy yesterday, and I had to get off and tape an SNY spot. And I couldn't take them. But Kev, shout out to you for having your crazy Hartenstein idea. I still don't think it would work. And I forget what your other super chat was, but honestly, I don't think it's relevant right now. So just wanted to shout out Kevin Danishevsky. I hope I made it up to you. Okay, let's get to it right now. Drew P. What's going on, Drew? I'm done making the ceiling work. I was wrong to try. However the season ends, I want Brunson, Deuce, Josh, OG maybe, and Mitch on the floor for it. Yeah, I mean, look, there's figuring out like who should stay and who should go It's a really tough call because they've invested so much in the players that are on this team. And it's not only that they've invested in the players, they've invested in the archetypes. So if you're gonna, let's just say for argument's sake, OG was more of a problem than people realize. Okay, where are you gonna get another 240 pound, 6'8" freight train who, when he wants to, could be one of the best defensive players in the sport and be switchable and guard centers and guard ones, the whole thing, And you could go on and on and on down the line, all the way down to Cat, where it's like, all right, you ship out Cat for a bag of basketballs. Okay, where's your gravity? Can you still generate that kind of gravity consistently enough? So that's the tough part. Thanks, Drew. Christopher Smith, this is shite. Chris is from over the pond. Like embarrassing shite. Cat can get in the bin. You know what my favorite part of today's game was? My favorite part of today's game was when they were down by, I don't fucking know how many points they were down by, 20-something points, and then Cat got a basket, and he made, because I think I've seen him do this before. I think it's like a Spider-Man gesture where it's like a web slinger gesture. I've seen him do it before. I don't know if that's the genesis of it, but he did that towards someone in the crowd with a big smile on his face. And I just lit up inside. Truly. I mean, you want to talk about the players you want on your team? 100%. Give me 12 of them. Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Next up, Hush Zoo. I'm stunned at what we're witnessing. I'm not at all. I'm not even remotely stunned. This has been getting again, we're lucky enough in Knicks Film School here. We all hear things. People like to reach out to us with I don't know if this is legit, and then the benefit of being in our position is when you hear enough of these things and you can't maybe trust any one thing individually. If you get enough stuff collectively, you're like, oh, okay, I think this is probably too much for it to be a coincidence. And it's just been the storyline for this season. This has been lying under the surface the whole year. And again, actually don't take my word for it. Just go back and watch the Cat press conference from training camp. That's all you have to do. You don't have to believe a blessed word of what I'm saying. Don't believe anything I'm saying. Just go back and watch that press conference and ask yourself, was there ever a moment where Karl-Anthony Towns seems like he A, publicly was fully bought in, or B, was playing at a decent level and was comfortable on the floor since then? And the answer to both those questions is no. A couple more from Hush here. Didn't look at Mike Malone because he's too like Tibbs. Well, I mean, I don't know how much we're going to have conversations about who the next guy might be, but I mean, it would be a direction that I might look. I'll tell you this: I don't think Tibbs is coming back here. And by the way, let me say one thing really quick. I don't think that's the answer. I think things got too bad between Tibbs and a couple of the players here that I think if you actually tried to reincorporate him into this, I think it would engender enough of a negative reaction upon certain people that I don't know if you could put that toothpaste back in the tube. I just want to say that for the record. Next up from Hushu, we have our pick. Maybe time to watch the Bansa tape. Yeah, that was the other way that I was gonna open the show, was by joking that at least we still had our pick. Mike Brown was asked if he knows. This is all courtesy of Knicks Videos SNY. It was asked if he knows what buttons he needs to press to get the Knicks back on track. I've got some ideas what I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm all ears. I'm most curious if he's going to get a chance to push those buttons. Josh Hart, after the loss, we all need to do some soul searching. How we're playing right now is really inexcusable. Last year, the effort was always there. I haven't seen this effort before today. It's embarrassing. Thanks, Hush. again, no, I don't think anybody wants to lose. I don't think anybody wants to tank the season. I think there is a collective. They're just broken. They've been broken by the circumstances of this season. Jack Corcoran, I appreciate Leon for bringing contending Knicks basketball, but it's time to admit he bungled the post 2024 roster building. With regard to coaching, he interviewed half the NBA. How are we so bereft of ideas? I don't know what you mean by the last part in terms of we interviewed half the NBA. I mean, if anything, I thought you were going to point out that it's not that nobody wanted the job. It's that nobody was willing to ruffle enough feathers within their organization to come here and take the job on the terms that the front office wanted them to take the job, which I think is, telling. As far as the roster, I mean, look, we'll talk about the cat trade. We'll be talking about it for years to come, unfortunately. Thanks, Jack. Drew P with another one. Thank you for suffering with us. Giannis, save us. Honestly, I know it's bad and I'm not happy about it. I don't feel like I'm suffering right now. This team, intellectually, I know this is bad. Years ago, before I started doing this shit, this stuff would have eaten at me like you have no idea. And I don't know what it is, but like, knowing that so much of this came from selfishness and agendas and people not having enough of I don't even blame Dolan. Dolan's a crazy Dolan's a cartoon character. Dolan was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He has no concept of reality. It is the people that enable him. And those are the people. And I get mad. And yes, I'm mad at the front office. And yes, I'm obviously mad at the players. But I'm like, I'm like refusing to let this like make me miserable. Like it and I guess I should be thankful I am thankful for that. But I don't know. They've just left me feeling empty. They've just left me feeling utterly empty. I don't know. I think about this stuff a lot, like the effect of content creation on fandom. But I don't know. It's unfortunate. Giannis, yeah, I wish. Another one from Drew. If no, a Giannis offseason, cat for Levine and get a center. When you're barking up the Zach Levine tree, man, you better go to a different field. Thanks, Drew. Jack with another one. And yes, Captain Brunson deserves a ton of blame for this. Evidently, his leadership fucking sucks. Best player does not mean best leader. It's funny because he was voted the second best leader in the league by his peers, or from was that by his peers, or was that no? I think it was by the front offices in the athletic poll. I think it was that wasn't by his peers. I have long thought that. I have long wondered whether Jalen Brunson could have done more to get Cat on board and be about the things that this organization was about for the years before Cat arrived. And I wonder, I mean, again, I'll lean on the analogy I always do. We've all been in jobs. We've all had jobs where we've worked with certain types of people where even if you care about your job and succeeding and having and the company you work for doing as good as it possibly could do, even if you do that, have you ever had someone that you try to get through to and then you get to a point where you're like, oh my God, it doesn't matter what I say or what I do. This person's never going to change. And then what do you do when you come upon that realization? You go back and you're like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to make the best of it, and but you know what I'm gonna damn well not do? I'm not gonna give up, and I'm gonna keep doing it the only way I know how, and that's to work really hard and try to be successful as I know how to be successful. And I think as you've seen Brunson over the last year and change lean more into his tendencies, my guess is that he reached some point of realization some time ago where he's like, I can't ever reach this guy. And I'm just going to do it how I know how to do it. And that's my guess. It's my guess. But not saying he's blameless. I'm not saying he's blameless, but the notion that like I'm going to sit there and put Jalen Brunson on trial because he can't get through to Karl Anthony Towns. Man, you're it. I don't know if I have that in me. I just don't. Anyway, thanks, Jack. JDM feels similar to losing 17 of 20 a few years back. Better stop the bleeding before they end up with the same fate as that team. Difference is that team didn't have the talent that this team does. That team was severely lacking in talent. And also, you want to talk about Thibodeau? Thibodeau lost sight of the plot there, I think, a little bit. I think he was a little bit too deep into the forest to see the trees. And I also think the Kemba situation kind of screwed him because once Kemba came back and did what he did, you know, he couldn't talk about not being able to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Yeah, but a lot of that was on Tibbs. A lot of that year was on Tibbs. You know, but that team didn't have the talent. So different situation. Thanks, JDM. Hush with another one. First time I'm questioning the captain and leadership of Brunson. Interesting. Brunson's getting a lot of smoke today. Can't say I'm shocked. He can't get his team to care along with Mike Brown. Blow up the score. Don't waste our time. Keep JB. Well, I don't think it's quite that easy to blow up the score. But we'll see. This is from Ian Begley. One thing Miles Deuce McBride mentioned in post-game interview was guys possibly getting too comfortable because of success, both last year and earlier this year. He said winning earlier in the year masked some of the Knicks' issues. Those issues still remain, but as McBride noted, the Knicks have been playing a higher caliber of opponents lately. Knicks have dropped 9 of their last 11. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I love that Deuce is trying. Deuce is one guy. He goes out there and tries every time, so we're going to worry about that. Thanks, Hush. Deadwords, what's going on, Deadwords? It's halftime writing this, and if this keeps going, we're all in for an all-timer of a post game. I hope I didn't disappoint you. Still can't believe what has become of this team and how low it's gotten. Yeah, I mean, can it get lower than this? I don't know. I mean, I guess it could always get lower. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know if it could get lower than this. All right, next up. Dom Cappuccini. Dom, I know you're hurting today, man. You don't know what you got until it's gone, and now I officially miss last season's team. How the hell did this happen? LOL. The 2016-17 Knicks reincarnated. Yeah, I remember that team well. I was very high on that team. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, the whole thing. You know, look, last year's team was a frustrating watch. I didn't have fun during the regular season. I didn't even have fun most of the postseason. That was a tough postseason. I did not enjoy. I enjoyed so little of that first round, you know, and like the lows of the second round even were pretty bad. And then it all led up to the most devastating experience of my sports life. Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything else to add, Dom. It's the thing has shattered. It is shattered. Thanks, Dom. JDM with another one. Overreaction of the century. Any chance Brown is one and done? Team looks completely checked out. I'm wondering if I don't know if he lasts till Wednesday. I mean that. I really don't. I don't. If you could, because if you watch that, what alternative is there? Why would you think that this is going to change? What reason? Possibly. That was a collective letting go of the rope. A collective. We don't want to be here. If your players don't want to be playing basketball for the head coach that they're playing basketball for, I just don't know how you're supposed to move on from that. We'll see. Thanks, JDM. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? The roster is what the roster is. Look, X's and O's be damned. If Brown can't get these guys ready to play, he can't be our coach. I don't care why it's not working. It's not working. I don't think this has anything to do with X's and O's, or rotations or starting lineup or any of that. Weren't those the talk about the good old days? Remember when we were complaining about, oh, Deuce should start instead of Josh Hart, or they're playing too much drop, or there's not enough creativity in the offense that finished 5th last year, I think. Yeah. Those were the good old days. Thanks, Dan. Oscar, what's going on, Oscar? Booked my flight to New York 2 days ago. Any refund? Again, there's so much season left, and the trade deadline is still a few weeks away. Maybe that's why I haven't kind of reached apoplectic levels yet, because there's still. I mean, look, we had 2 teams fire their coaches with like a week left in the season last year. Maybe 3. I might be forgetting one. It was Memphis. It was. Who the hell else was it other than Memphis? Denver? And maybe that was it. Maybe it was just those 2. So yeah, I don't know. Well, there's still there's time to do something. It's just I don't know if they're going to do anything. That's on Leon, if he even has the leeway. Thanks, Oscar. Vascalo, what's going on, man? I got eaten alive for saying it in Substack, but goddamn, we shouldn't have fired Tibbs. How many losses in a row before we do something drastic? Man, I would feel so much better about that move if I knew it was for the right reasons. Like, I don't know. There were players who didn't like him. And even last year, there were players on the team who were not the biggest fans of each other. You wanted to have more unity throughout the organization. I don't know. I wish the process was the process of a sound basketball organization. And it was nothing resembling that. Not even remotely. Thanks, Vaskalov. Anthony, what's going on, Anthony? Game 42, and Brown has already lost the locker room. I mean, you watched it. We got another couple from Anthony here. I wonder who's fearing for their job more, Leon Rose or Mike Brown? And then I'll answer that in a second. Let's get to Anthony's last one. The turning point of the JB Knicks was the cat trade. Me and Jeremy kind of touched on it last night. I think the turning point of the JB Knicks was when Oklahoma City made the decision to spend essentially all of their free agent money on Isaiah Hartenstein. And that was the turning point. That was when, and I've tried to make, I think I attempted to make this point, maybe in a Substack comment or something a couple days ago, but like, and this is not going to sound complimentary to my beloved former head coach, but when you become a Thibodeau team, it's like, you know what it is? I don't know if this is going to quite work, but you know when you are driving into like government land or something, or even like a parking lot, I think some of them have these, and you drive over, it's like spikes, but if your car goes over the spikes one way, it's fine, but if you try to go back over the spikes the other way, it'll explode your tires. I wonder if like that's what it is to try to go from being a Thibodeau team to not being a Thibodeau team, because Chicago fired Tom Thibodeau 10 years ago, and they still haven't really figured out how to get out of that or how to find themselves again. You know, Minnesota did. Minnesota also did kind of a complete organizational overhaul, and they changed ownership. They also drafted Anthony Edwards. You know, so a lot of things. But I just, once you give yourself over to that sort of organizational mentality, I just wonder, and then if you start to lose the players that have bought into that sort of mentality, which again, we know most players do not want to do. They're not wired that way. How easy is it to go back? And when they lost Hartenstein, it just changed everything. It just changed anything. And look, we'll never know what other options were on the table for them that summer. But you know, but again, Cat played for Tibbs. I witnessed Karl Anthony Towns at times like dig really deep last year for whatever bullshit might have been going on. I saw that with my own eyes. But it was not the same last year, and it certainly hasn't been the same this year. Thanks, Anthony. Mr. Fabro, what's going on, Mr. Fabro? Thank you for the generous contribution. If Leon doesn't have one more trick up his sleeve at the deadline, they need to consider a fire sale. The biggest failure of the 2010s era Knicks was not realizing we put all our chips in the middle for Melo and Stat, and we lost. That's not going to happen. Not under this owner. The owner might one day wake up and I was about to say get sick of owning a basketball team and sell it. That's not why he owns the basketball team. He owns the basketball team because he knows it is in his financial interest to continue owning the basketball team. That's why he fights so vociferously at all of these league meetings, because to him, this is a financial endeavor. Now, there is obviously a part of him, a big part of him, that does not like it when the people in his circle start asking him, hey, what's going on with your Knicks? And that's generally the genesis of his firings and things of that nature. And his always has been the genesis of his meddling. But he's not going to sell the team because he knows at the moment it is still profitable to own a basketball team in the NBA in which franchise values keep going up and up and up. Maybe the NBA gets to a point and they make some move or another where they do something and Dolan looks at it and he's like, all right, I think this is a sinking ship. I got to get off now. And you know why I don't think he'll do it? Because he's so fucking stubborn that instead of doing that, he will just double down on trying to make Adam Silver's life miserable to change whatever he believes is not in his best financial interest as an owner of the basketball team. So to answer your question, it's never going to be anything other than this under Dolan. He's never going to okay a true like anything like that. And as an aside from all of that, Mr. Fabro, no, they should not hold a fire sale. There is still a contending team on this roster. There is still a contending team in there. That sounds insane for me to say right now, but I believe it. So no, you do not hold a fire sale, even if you could. But The answer is you can't. Thanks, Mr. Fabro. Sam Garcia, I'm at a loss for words at this point. I think a lot of Knicks fans are. I think a lot of Knicks fans are like, what are we witnessing? How did it get to this point so quickly after we just won the NBA Cup? You know what would be funny? They should raise the banner ahead of the Nets game. That would be, oh my, what I wouldn't fucking pay. What I would not pay for them to raise the Cup banner ahead of the Nets game. Every dollar from this live stream, I would give happily to see that. Thanks, Sam. Danishevsky, what's going on, man? May have to start watching just Mets over KFS. Hello, Bo Bichette. I still have all the faith in Jalen. I loved Mitch and Josh and Deuce. Trade everyone else. No. Even your beloved Mikal Bridges? No, I don't. Talk about a hill, an unpopular hill that I'm going to die on. I don't think Mikal's part of the problem. I think he may be part of the reason why why the old head coach isn't here anymore. But I still kind of believe Mikal is about the right things when it comes down to it. I don't know. Who the hell knows if I'm right? He's no Dante DiVincenzo, though. I know that. Thanks, Kev. Looking to see if there's anything else here. Mike Brown said he's not sure why the effort hasn't been there lately. This is Christian Winfield. Usually has long-winded answers. This was the shortest answer of his Knicks career. Okay, next up. Danishevsky with another one. Another cat need of Powell's balls. Carry on. I don't think that was so. The second one was obviously notable. The one in the corner, man, on a corner for a corner three to get reviewed for a hostile act. You can't write that shit. You cannot write that shit. Oh God. Thanks, Kev. Hi, Zoo. How is it possible you can lose a team after winning the cup? Like, is there a story that just hasn't been released? What the hell happened to the team? The cat thing was always there. The cat thing was always simmering. You know, again, just go look. Basketball teams, I really do believe that they have momentum is a thing. You know, like there's a lot of locker rooms out there that are not perfect, where there's issues and whatnot. But if teams start winning and playing well, it's like this stuff like tends to pile up. And they were, because again, they're so fucking talented, Hush. They're so fucking talented. That's the crime of it all. I was thinking about the Fizdale Milwaukee meme with the smile and everything. And like I thought of that during this game. That team stunk. They stunk to holy hell. This team was running, their offense at least, was running roughshod over defenses. When you have that talent and you're like, hey man, whatever we got going on, let's just go out there. But when it doesn't take a lot, when something is simmering. And that's the difference between teams that win championship and teams that don't. When you have that when you know your locker room is strong, that's why I never retweeted the Sam Presti quote. I think the quote was from like a year. It was not from this season, but the Sam Presti viral thing that was going around when the Thunder were going through it, where it's like teams go through these things every year. I never retweeted it because I'm like, yeah, he's right. Teams go through this shit every year. You come out of it. You come out of it if you're strong. If you're strong at the core. If you're not strong at the core, that's when it spirals. And this team is never, ever, ever, from a personality standpoint, these issues have always been there. They've been there the whole season. And they're carryovers from last season. Again, there were people who were, let me take a step back. If you thought that the only unhappiness last year was directed from certain players towards the coach, and everything else was copacetic, and all these guys were hunky-dory, I got news for you. Like, cat's cat. Brunson's cut how Brunson is cut. Hart is cut how Hart is cut. Where it is only about winning. It is only about winning at all times. And now you have a guy who's coming in, making as much money as the two of you combined, who is about all of this other nonsense that has nothing to do with winning. So there was that part of it. There's OG feeling like, hey, I should still, OG reminds me of Milton from Office Space, constantly muttering under his breath, I should get more shots. I should get more. I require more shots. I require more shots. That's OG, Now, OG's a mercenary. So you could have one mercenary on the team, and it doesn't matter if he mutters over in the corner, if he does his fucking job. And he did his job enough up until really since he came back from injury. When I quoted this in my newsletter, the team's been better defensively when he's been off the floor than when he's been on the floor. But when you combine that with the Cat stuff and the Cat versus, Brunson and Josh, and then you add in, they traded away they traded away the right kind of Villanova to get a guy who maybe is not cut from quite the same cloth as Josh and Dante and JB in terms of things like physicality and all that. And you have all this different, and to say nothing of the fact that, like, hey, Josh and Jalen, there's no question that, yeah, they would clown Tibbs, and whatnot. But when push came to shove, they both recognized, along with Dante and along with Hartenstein, that it's all in furtherance of winning. Now, here is their good friend McCall coming into the team where he is unwilling to see past his personal grievances and sacrifice because he is just so bent out of shape over how he's being used. So you have that dynamic there too. There's all these different dynamics and fractures. Fractures is the wrong word. Cracks. All these different cracks, but they held it together well enough. But this isn't, you ask what the hell happened to this team? This was a year and a half in the making. Thanks, Hush. BEZ11. Wasn't Mike Brown's offense supposed to create easy threes on nights like this? What a fucking joke he's becoming. Shout out, Mitch. I can't even evaluate Mike Brown's play calling, or scheme or anything. How the hell am I supposed to do that? They're not doing what he's asking. Or if they are, they're doing it like begrudge. One of my suspicions is that I've wondered, and I don't think I've ever vocalized this, is constantly we've seen plays where ostensibly intelligent basketball players are helping off of three-point shooters almost without any rhyme or reason. And part of me has wondered since really the beginning of the season if those guys were like, this is how you want us to play? Really? Like we know what we need to do defensively, and we know when we dial it up, we could get there. This is how you want us to play? And it's almost, I almost have wondered on some of those possessions, like, is this an act of quiet rebellion? I've never vocalized it because I don't know that I ever believed it enough to say it. And I still don't know that I believe it. But it's something that it's been a passing thought. I'll just say that. Jessica, what's going on, Jess? Haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're well. So if this team was out on Tibbs and is now out on Brown, is that a coaching issue? Beautiful to see Mitch look like himself, though, the lone defender. They didn't like Tibbs. There were people that may have hated Tibbs. But there's a big difference between not liking a head coach and not playing for a head coach. That's the difference. That's the difference. And They never fully let go of they call a spade a spade. They let go of the rope at times in little spurts here and there versus Tibbs. Let's not have revisionist history. But nothing remotely like this. Not even in the same universe as this. Thanks, Jess. Frank Miranda. Oh, Frankie boy. What's up, Mac? It's your boy Frank from Patreon. No more tiptoeing around the obvious. Cat is a low basketball IQ player and would go to the same market as Jack and trade him for I would go to the same market as Jack and trade him for 3 magic beans. Who would those beans be? That's Sacramento does have some magic beans. I'll say this about a Kings trade. If you got rid of Brown, then it would make it a lot easier to do something built around Cat for Sabonis, because then the guy who Sabonis hated wouldn't be here anymore. So you trade one guy that hated Mike Brown for another guy who hates Mike Brown, and you probably got to get rid of Mike Brown either way. So there you go. All right. Thanks, Frank. Ziad Raheem. What's going on, Ziad? Hashtag hire Tibbs. He ain't coming back, man. He has too much pride. This group has quit on each other. Certain guys should be sent packing yesterday, and heads should roll. Again, I'm waiting for some reporting over what I wish I had access to those corners of the those bowels of MSG. I don't, unfortunately. So, it'll get out. It always gets out. But we'll find out soon enough where this thing is at. Thanks, Ziad. 9484. What's going on? Genuinely believe the issue isn't front office macro, but rather on-court strategy. Less Missoula ball, more shots in the paint, at the rim, and free throws. My man, if you believe what we saw just now is strategy, I got another thing coming for you. I'm not saying that they haven't questioned the defensive strategy. I literally just said that a few minutes ago. But put like you don't see that what we saw tonight. That's not again, unless you could tell me that it's the players. Maybe that, I don't know. Maybe that is one of the things they're rebelling against. Maybe they've had it with his preferred style of offense. I don't know. But that. Let's just be clear about the fact that what we just witnessed had nothing to do with basketball strategy. Just make sure that's clear. All right, next up. Tony NFL, what's going on? How many firsts could our starters fetch? Hashtag only half joking. Who's fired first, Leon, Mike Brown, or Cat? Have a feeling Dolan is ready to see heads roll. We can't fire Cat, so he's out. And I mean, it would make no sense to fire Leon Rose now. I think what I would guess would happen is if Leon Rose was like, this dynamic has become untenable and there's no Cat trade we can make, so I think we have to get rid of the coach. Dolan, I would guess, would probably say to him, okay, great. You get to hire the next coach. If we don't make the finals, then he's out and you're out. That's my guess is what would happen, but I don't know. Thanks, Tony. Dom the dentist. What's going on, Dom? Lack of talent can be forgiven. Lack of fight cannot. Leadership is their first problem. Personnel is the second. I mean, leadership is their first problem. So who's to blame? I don't mean that facetiously. Is Leon to blame for from a leadership? Is he like leading the organization in a bad way? You could say he led the team in a bad way when he made, a trade that he should have thought more about what bringing in that sort of personality would mean for the locker room. You want to tell me that is bad leadership? I mean, you want to tell me it's Mike Brown? You want to tell me it's Jalen Brunson? Like, I don't I don't know. It's just it's a bad mix. It's these people are all miserable. So how are they going to stop being miserable? And are the people that have grudges against one another? It's not only that they're miserable, and there's people that have grudges against one another. So you have to now combat two things. Can you get out of that without change that without making serious moves? Do you want to try? Next up, Frank Miranda with another one. What's up, Mag? It's your boy Frank from Patreon. At this point, Mike Brown should trade the hard hat and Tim's. Oh my God, when's the last time we've seen one of those? Yeah, I feel like it's been a year since I've seen the hard hat and the Tim's. For a dunce cap and pro Keds. What is TEMU? Bob the Builder. I don't know what I should probably know what that means. TEMU. Oh, it's knockoff Amazon. I did not know that. I don't do online shopping, Frank. If I need something, I send a link to my wife and she obtains it. But yeah, Bob the Builder. Yeah, no, man, they should probably retire. Actually, that's a great question. If Mike Brown gets fired, do they keep doing the hard hat and the Tibbs? That's a good question. Thanks, Frank. Stevens Guillaume, what's going on? I decided to take a break from drinking after my family trip to Aruba last week. This team is making it so hard for me to not drink right now. This team is miserable to watch and to root for. Yes, and that yes. I'll drink for you. I poured myself a bourbon. I haven't had a bourbon in weeks. I actually only had 2 drinks last week. I had what did I have? I had a High Noon several post games ago, which I have not disposed of the can yet, obviously. And then I had a what is it? Cuddy something an espresso martini, which someone had brought to my house in a can. Someone had brought to my house on Christmas, and I decided to open one to try it out, and it was utterly delightful. I'm someone who's never ordered an espresso martini in their life, but I opened one of these cans. It was really good. And then my wife took a sip, and she's like, "Oh, this is really good." And my wife looked up like the calorie information after she took a sip, and she told me, and I almost had a fucking heart attack. So I will not be having any more of those. I'm gonna stick to the bourbon. Yeah, they're miserable right now, Stevens. Why would anybody be excited about watching this Brooklyn game? You know? I don't know. Or any game until they do something big. Michael Aaron, what's going on, Michael? So many Tibbs supporters nowadays after they wanted him gone. Pretty funny. Keep JB, Hart, Deuce, Mitch, everyone else. Good riddance. I love that Mitch showed up tonight. I love just having Mitch on my basketball team. 15 rebounds in 19 minutes, 8 on the offensive glass. Longest tenured Knick. Just part of the solution. Same thing, Deuce McBride, part of the solution. Love that guy. Imagine Deuce McBride was a +3 in this game. Could you imagine that? There's some guys here worth rooting for. And there's a team here worth rooting for. Unfortunately, it is so far gone right now. So far gone. Thanks, Michael. Michael Bildrichi. Hope I got that right. Trade or pink slips on the way if this continues any longer. Lucky game was early, so I wasn't home from work yet. Listened on the radio, A to Z, shameful, no spirit. You didn't miss anything, and you summarized it pretty well from your radio listen. Yeah, there was no spirit tonight whatsoever. They tried in spurts in the second half. Again, you got these little the funniest part of this game, if any of it could be described as funny, was when Dallas became Dallas stinks. I should have said that. Should I have said that at the top? Did I need to say it at the top? Dallas stinks. They're fucking they're awful. And with no Anthony Davis, they're awful. With Anthony Davis, they're a 500 team. With no Anthony Davis, they're terrible. And they were missing other guys tonight too. This team stinks. They had won 4 road games all year. They're going to pivot into a tank. They stink. They're terrible. And they look like world beaters against the team. But anyway, at a point in time in the second half, they started not being able to put coherent possessions together on offense. And they actually gave the Knicks a chance to get back in the game. And there were these possessions where it was Keystone Cops. And it wasn't one player or 2 players. It was everybody, that was when I decided, no, this isn't quit. This is broken. This is broken. It's broken. Thanks, Michael. Paul D. What's going on, Paul? Everyone wanted Tibbs gone. But at least they played for him. They seem to have no respect for Brown or will to play for him. I mean, there was enough respect for Tibbs right down to the very end. They never lost respect for Tibbs. And they never lost respect for Tibbs. And whatever is happening right now behind the scenes, this, that, and the other, I don't think they respect Brown, right? I just don't think I said what I said at the beginning of the show. I just don't think they respect him. And it's not that they don't like him maybe as a person or, respect it's not about basketball acumen. I don't think they disrespect his basketball acumen. I think there is like I said, I think there is a lack of belief in how he has handled a very delicate situation. And when there's a natural comparison between him and the last guy, I don't know. What was that? Karl Anthony Towns on the booze at MSG directed at him and the team. You spend $140 to represent your favorite player with a jersey. You come to MLK Day here at the Garden, and tickets are 3 times that price. I'd be disappointed too. Again, I almost got baited into it again. Carl knows what to say when a microphone is put in front of his face. I'll just say that. He knows what to say. Next up. OG team. What's going on, OG team? Matt Barnes was right about Mike Brown. I know what you're talking about, the quote that he doesn't have players' respect. I went from upset to disappointed to stunned during this stretch. I wish I was stunned. There was a part of me that wishes I was stunned. Genuinely do. Not an ounce of me. I was, again, that's why I told you. I'm not going to, I don't hide things from you guys. I should. I really should. But I told you, I bet the fucking Mavs before the game to win. That did stun. I mean, the fact that it got to that level as I was watching it in the first quarter, I did not expect it to get to that level. All right. I didn't think we were going to see that. Just because I didn't think the Mavs were that good, but give Max Christie credit. He hit a bunch of threes, and as a wise man once said, these guys are all NBA players. So, yeah. Thanks, OG team. A loss to the Nets Wednesday will be the nail in the coffin. This wasn't enough of a nail for you? Come on. This wasn't enough of a nail? I wonder. Thanks, OG. Norman Jean King. $250 for shitty seats to see this shit, but I'm hopeful. I like the people that actually go and they pay money to watch this team on a consistent basis. I give all of you guys so much credit. I would have been booing the hell. I would have been booing so Well, actually, no. I've never booed. I say that. I've never booed a team in my life, and I never would boo a team in my life. It's just not in my personality. But like, if I was a different sort of person, I would. I don't know what that makes any. I don't know what that means. I don't blame anyone. My point is, I don't blame anyone for booing. And if anybody out there was booing, all I can tell you is I wish you would have booed louder. Thanks, Norman. Nido Rahino. Tibbs, truther here. Mike Brown got to go. Thank you, J Mac. I don't know what you're thanking me for, man. I should have stood my ground more last year. You know, I should have stood my ground more last year, and even over the summer. You know, even if I did believe at the time that a move was probably the right move, I should have stood my ground. But that's the tricky part when you do this and at the time of the playoffs, I knew I was going to be leaving teaching, and I knew eventually my family's livelihood was going to be dependent on my ability to continue having people give a shit what I had to say. You know, when you find out in no uncertain terms, like, hey man, people ain't listening for this defensive Tibbs shit. It rattles you, and I wish I could sit here and I didn't have to admit that, but it rattled me, you know. And I don't, you know, I'd never get on here and say anything that I didn't believe, but I definitely backed down, and I didn't love it, but yeah, I don't know what else there's to say. Just know I would never get up here and say anything that's not truthful to you guys. And I will try moving forward to continue to, if I believe something with my full chest, I will continue to try to make that apparent, whether it is popular or unpopular. Thanks, man. War Angel, what's going on, War Angel? When you don't have a MFer or MFers, probably, right, on other teams, feel like the alpha and start stunting Tibbs, what was the this is so hard. If anybody's listening to this on the podcast, these are not words in the super chat. There's just abbreviations. Was the motherfucker now? They have zero team is like a dish without that dog sauce. That the style doesn't have enough force. Okay, I think this is a defensive Tibbs, although frankly I'm not sure. In any case, I appreciate the contribution. Thank you. Do they not have enough dog? Yeah, I would say right now they don't have enough dog collectively as a group. I agree with that. Flatulente. Let's go with that. Great name. Thanks for the contribution. The only sign the Knicks wanted to win was Josh Hart's pregame talk. Yeah. On the court, nothing. Can't even beat the fucking Mavs in what was essentially a must-win. Need major changes. What a disgrace. We're wasting the gift of Jalen Brunson. Yes. I co-sign all of that. And I get, you know what's the controversial stance that I'm going to take? Here's the controversial stance that might not win me any popularity contest right now. Again, I'm not saying that Jalen Brunson has approached this thing perfectly and has made all the correct decisions along the way and all of that sort of thing, but I am not blaming Jalen Brunson. I'm just putting it out there right now. I'm not blaming Jalen Brunson from this. And I have at times wondered what more he could have done. A lot. I've wondered what more he could have done to get Cat involved in the offense and this and that. The more I learn and the more I feel like I know, I can't get on JB for reaching a point with this player where he's just like, he feels like he's just out of options. I can't get on him for that. I'm not going to get on him for that. I'm not going to. Thanks, man. Freeway Hustler. What's going on, Freeway Hustler? If this was happening from one season to another, it wouldn't be so mind-fucked as I am now, as I'm watching two very different teams in the same season. Again, I don't want to keep repeating myself. I think this was always there. I think this was always simmering under the surface. It's like, God, this is morbid. Why does my mind go to these analogies? It's like it's like an abusive partner. When like everything's good and everything's happy, it's fine. But like the second, like, I don't know, somebody does something that sets the person off, it's like it's right back. I really do think that this was always there. This stuff, this whole season. And I believe that because I knew it when I saw that Cat press conference. I knew it when I saw that press conference. Cat is woe is me. That is his default. That is his default. You know, and I understand he gets up there in front of the microphone at times and he says, oh, I got to be better. We all have to be better. I don't think he believes that for one single solitary second. I think Cat thinks his shit doesn't stink. And when he wants to let everybody know that he doesn't feel appreciated or used correctly or this, that, or the other thing, he has a way of doing it. And there's a reason that players around the league do not respect him, including some of his own teammates. You know? Why have we seen these different players? It's not just Draymond. These different guys come out of the woodwork to punk Cat on the court and off the court. Other than his teammates in Minnesota, and credit to them for that, how many players around the league come to his defense? You know? And I'm not saying that what Green says about him is fair. It's not. It's wrong. It's vile. It's mean. It's shitty. You know, but like, it should tell you something. You know, that like players in the Eastern Conference, they've released the All-Star votes today. Players in the Eastern Conference, more players thought Brandon Ingram should be an All-Star than Karl Anthony Towns. He finished one spot ahead in the player voting ahead of Michael Porter Jr., who currently plays for a team that has, 10 wins? I don't even know what they have. Come on. Stuff has been there the whole year. Thanks for your hustle. Dom the dentist. What's going on, Dom? The owner said championship or bust, right? Go bust and get us a young stud to build the rest of the Brunson's prime with. You're not getting that. Sorry. Not this year, at least. Not under this owner. Thanks, Dom. House Effect. What's going on, House Effect? After the devastating Knicks series loss to the Pacers, they fired Tibbs just to go back to and start Three Wings and Brunson. Well, just before I even read the rest of the Super Chat, it was never about basketball. I've said this time and time again. All the complaints that you saw on Twitter and this and that about X's and O's and spacing and sets and yada, yada, yada wasn't about any of that shit. It wasn't about the starting lineup. It was never about any of it. That wasn't what it was about, which is why I said at the top of the show, I just wish I could believe that the process behind the thing was sound. You know? But it wasn't. I understand players not buying in. Lineups with two wings and Deuce or Mitch works. Mike Brown is doing the same thing that Tibbs did, which is like, I'm going to play my 5 best players. You know? Deuce, now I say that Deuce has gotten even better than he was last year. Deuce rocks. I've said multiple times I think Deuce should get a chance to start because I think Hart off the bench, there's a certain something to it. And yet it's interesting. And again, to go back to the whole genesis of this, the coaches told Mike Brown, listen, man, you got to start Josh Hart. Do you think that was all about X's and O's? Or do you think that was about, hey, man, this guy is one of the guys who's about the right things, and we're running out of them. If you don't start this guy, it's gonna, like, people are gonna see that, and it's gonna be a bigger problem. So it's all messy right now. It's all messy. Thanks, House Effect. Luyen Chow, what's going on, Luyen? I just don't understand how the Cup Knicks became this pile of shit overnight. Yeah, talked about it a few times already. What happens when your foundation is not strong? Thanks, Liam. Jason, what's going on, Jason? KFS Postgames began as therapy sessions. We're back. No, I don't think they began as therapy sessions because the first year I started doing these was the 2018-19 season. And there was nothing to therapize because people weren't angry. You know, that team stunk, but it was kind of designed to stink. You know? Now 2019-20, then we got into more therapy mode. So yeah, I don't know if that's more what you're referring to, but I remember, I don't know, the beginnings of it that I remember just kind of getting up here and be like, okay, we lost by 30 tonight, but that's okay because, hey, Mitchell Robinson had a couple of nice possessions, you know, and stuff like that. And now that's the irony, Jason, is we're back to, hey, the team is completely lost and broken and quitting the whole thing. But Mitchell Robinson, he was good. Everything old is new again. Thanks, Jason. House Effect with another one. And there is more than enough data to prove that 1, Towns is best with 4 shooters. 2, Brunson is best with 4+ defenders. 3, best lineups include Brunson, Deuce, and Hart. 4, lineups with all 3 wings don't work. So what do you want to do? So it sounds like you're saying some different things. Because if you're saying Brunson is best with 4+ defenders, Brunson works better with a center who's not Cat. All right? Brunson works better with a center who, as Benji said in his article the other day, is an offensive lineman, not as a receiver. So already you're off with your 2 best players don't work well together. And so Towns is best with 4 shooters. That might be true. Now, Josh Hart has been very good from 3 this year. His numbers say that. I think he may have been the team's leading 3-point shooter tonight. He was 2 for 5 tonight. The offensive numbers with Towns and Hart on the floor together, by and large, have been very good since they've been paired. They were very good in the playoffs last year. They've been very good this season. In terms of Brunson, Deuce, and Hart lineups being the best, absolutely. Great. So which max wing do you want to sit? Do you want to bench OG Anunoby in his $200 million contract, or do you want to bench the guy that you gave up 5 first-round picks for? Again, the only option of the starting lineup currently would be to bench Hart for Deuce. We saw that lineup. That lineup played games and looked like dog shit, just like this lineup is looking like dog shit. It's not the lineups. It's not. This has nothing to do with basketball. What we are seeing right now, this is a personality conflict issue. This is a distressed workplace. You want an accurate description of what we're seeing right now with the Knicks? That's your accurate description. You want to know what a distressed workplace looks like? Watch this game. That's what it is. Thanks, House Effect. Deepak, what's going on, Deepak? All the headlines said we were fully healthy. False. The collective mental health of this team is notably concerning. Something's got to give, and soon. Again, I keep looking at my phone. We'll see when we are gonna get it. Yeah. Okay, let's do another one, and then Mark, we got to do stat at some point, and then but you let me know when you want to do that. All right, next up, B Valder. What's going on, B Valder? Biggest worry for me is a panic trade. #AD. I'm not gonna say it. Why would I'll put it like this? Why would Dallas want to trade Anthony Davis for Karl Anthony Towns? Why? What possible reason would Dallas want to trade Anthony Davis for Karl Anthony Towns so they could have the same contract situation on their hands for a player who, yeah, he plays more basketball games, but like Dallas is looking to, move forward. They have an opportunity here. They can get a nice draft pick. You want to bring Kyrie back? Okay, bring Kyrie back. I would like the notion that there would be a panic trade out there that gets Karl Anthony Towns off my basketball team. Where do I hit the panic button? I'm running, not walking, to hit that panic button. If I could ever get this guy off my team and potentially solve the biggest issue in the locker room. Now, I wonder if the coach is too far gone with the rest of the roster that even doing that wouldn't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But there is no panic trade. Panicky enough for me. Seriously, find me a fucking trade. I challenge anyone to find me a trade that I would say no to right now involving Karl Anthony Towns. And I mean that. Who would want this? All right, let's move on. Mr. Knicks 101 might be your best monologue. Jesus Christ. I don't know what that says about. I guess I'm just not very entertaining after they win games. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't mean to. I thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I wish it wasn't. All right, you want to do stat of the game? Let's do it. I don't even know what the stat of the game is, but I'm excited to see it. Stat of the game, courtesy of our guy, Jonah Kaufman. What's going on, Jonah? Stat of the game is 7 players with bottom 10 scoring games. Of the 9 rotation players who played tonight, only Kat and Mitch had decent scoring performances by their own standards. This was Clarkson's second lowest scoring game of the season, McCall's third lowest, Deuce's fourth lowest, Brunson's seventh lowest, OG's eighth lowest, Shamit's eighth lowest, and Hart's 10th worst scoring game of the season. They put up 97 points, their second lowest total, slightly undercutting the 99 points in the last game. Jonah, I got to give it to you, man. I was wondering, how is this guy going to come up with a stat that is befitting of this game? And you did it. You absolutely did it. That is legwork right there, my friend. That is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for coming up with that. That's really good. I mean that. That's really, really good. Man. And again, I'm not to toot my own horn after the last super chat, but this is, if you want to know what broken looks like, if your collective spirit is broken, it is everybody going out there at the same time and looking like dog shit at once. If your locker room, if the spirit behind the team, if the belief in what you are there to do is gone, that's what you get. You get everybody having atrocious games. Man. Anyway. All right. We're going to do, okay. Do Spence and then, or you want to do it now, Mark? Or no, do it after this. Whatever you want. Okay. Spence, what's going on? Do you think Tibbs' fire was more than just the players? No experimentation the whole regular season, then panic in the Eastern Conference Finals. I was a Tibbs fan, but there was more. I mean, you must have missed the last few post games. Again, I'll try to be succinct about it. McCall had an issue with Tibbs. There was at least one other player who had an issue. Actually, multiple other players who had issue with Tibbs. I'm forgetting. I was forgetting someone when I was talking about this before because he's not on the team anymore. But there were, but McCall was a big one. Multiple other players had an issue with Tibbs. The front office got pissed off that they never wanted to hear from him. And that's why you had Dolan go say the collaboration part of it. And then it reached a head at the end of the regular season. And he was absolutely coaching for his job in the first round. He was absolutely coaching for his job in the second round. And then when they won the second round, and then the Eastern Conference Finals started off as they did with the game 1 and the game 2. Then for the brief reprieve where he was no longer coaching for his job, then it was basically where it's back coaching for his job. And the if you want to say that it's the straw that broke the camel's back is when they wanted him to use a different starting lineup and he didn't, and then he did. And yeah, it was a lot of water it was a lot of bad juju that built up over time. And enough people in the organization who did not like being told to fuck off, and enough of those people having the ear of the owner, and the owner getting involved and putting his finger on the scale. That's what it was. In the long and the short of it, that's what it was. I hope that was okay for you. Okay, next up. Spence again. Hindsight is 2020. I missed them picks and Dante, but mainly them picks. I mean, look. If you want to say that's the pivot point. If you want to say that's the pivot point, because if they had picks, they had to get out of jail free card, or not get out of jail free card. They would have made the move for Giannis this summer. If you want to say that, you could say that. That's fine. Look, Mikal Bridges was never worth all the picks. I never really loved the fuck them picks thing because the part of me that just respects the transactional nature of the sport and the league so much was like, not really. Because again, it's not about the picks. It was never about the picks. It's about the opportunity cost. It's about the opportunity cost of being able to use those picks for something else. It's not about whether Mikal Bridges is worth the players that wind up getting picked with those 5 picks. It's nothing to do with it. It's about the opportunity cost. Losing Dante still hurts my soul. Probably not as much as losing Hartenstein. I loved watching Isaiah Hartenstein as much as I've loved watching other than Jalen. Because even Josh infuriates you at times. I'm not above that. Josh, there are times, not even last season, before last season, Josh infuriated me. Isaiah Hartenstein was one of those rare players, like Kurt Thomas, who never once was I watching that guy ask him, or Taj, except he was better than Taj was by the time Taj got here. But one of those players who everything he did out there, you knew there was a reason for it. You knew he was bought in. And he was so smart. He was so smart and so selfless. I just can't express in words how much I miss that guy. Cannot express in words. Anyway. Okay. Quick word from our friends at Yule. What's going on, Yule? I got my Black Edition ready to drink right here. You've seen it on the last few post games, and you're seeing it again now. Comes in a beautiful little bottle. And the other thing, by the way, you could tell it's a substantial amount of food. It's 500 milliliters. So it actually does fill you up. 400 calories, not going to kill you. And then the most important thing, 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, and 6 grams of fiber. And then best of all, it actually does really legitimately replace a meal. So I'll just tell my story of today, when I had a big lunch because I didn't eat a big breakfast, had a big lunch. My plan was to have some semblance of a dinner, on a plate at halftime, and I was just absolutely sick to my stomach that I'm like, I can't eat right now. So I didn't. And now what time is it? It's 9:33 p.m. I still have not eaten dinner. So as soon as I finish my glass of bourbon, I am going to crack open this bottle of Yule and enjoy the hell out of it. And I will just say, I know I'm not supposed to pick favorites. All the flavors are good. I promise you all the flavors are good. The strawberry banana is the best. I promise you the strawberry banana is the best. I don't know if even Yule allows you to order just strawberry banana, but they're all good. The coffee's good. Again, but the strawberry banana, it literally does taste like a strawberry banana milkshake. So if you want to take advantage of this, again, it's under $5 a bottle. It's a great way to regulate your diet. It's a great way to grab a quick meal. It's great for whatever you need. You could get their full high protein starter kit with the exclusive offer to Knicks Film School listeners, 20% off. It's a great deal. Just use code KFS. So it's HUEL.com/KFS. Again, HUEL.com/KFS. Get that 20% off, new customers only. And we appreciate Yule for partnering with the show. Thanks. All right. Kevin Nanishevsky, give me Pirtle quickly and Agbaji. Again, if you're Toronto, actually, is Toronto ahead of us in the standings? Hang on. There might be. Oh, no, we're a half game up. We're tied in the win column with the Raptors. Do the Raptors play today? No, the Raptors don't play today. I thought they might play today. Miami plays today. Yeah, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't think they, because it's, and let me just be clear about this. It's not that the Raptors, and I should have made this point clear, because when I said before about there is no such thing as a panic trade, it's not that teams around the league, if it's not that we can't find deals that can make the team that you're sending Cat to a better team. I think the Raptors could look at themselves and say, yeah, we're a better team if we have Karl-Anthony Towns instead of Jakob Poeltl, Emmanuel Quickley, and Ochai Agbaji. I think they could absolutely sell themselves on we'll be a better team. But that's not the only question. Because if you're trading for Karl-Anthony Towns, you have to ask yourself why. You're trading for Karl-Anthony Towns because you are now in the business of winning. And for the Toronto Raptors, a team that is already in fourth place in the Eastern Conference, not only are you in the business of winning, you are in the business of taking a further step up. They're set to host a home playoff series right now. So if they make a win now move, it's like, all right, we're trying to elevate even further up the food chain. Ask yourselves, is Cat, can you look at Cat right now and say he's going to put us in that upper echelon at the top, right? When you know, because of how things have gone here in New York, that he's going to want you to play him a certain way and use him in a certain system. So already right off the bat, you're changing how your team is playing midstream, right in the middle of a year. So there's that caveat. And then, oh, by the way, this is an investment. This is an investment because if we trade for a guy who this summer can effectively become expiring if he wants to, well, now we got to have the extension conversation. And how unpleasant is that? It's why I made the Trae Young comp. I made the Trae Young comp because it took a team that literally was like, fuck it, why not? Maybe Trae Young plays decent basketball next season and we could flip him for something at the deadline as an expiring contract next year. They have nothing to lose. It took quite literally the worst team in basketball to trade for Trae Young because they gave up nothing. They gave up nothing. You know? Again, Kev, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. Love. I don't think I am. All right. Next up. Mangu Man, what's going on? Do players need this much coddling? Needing this much coddling have championship DNA. McCall had no choice when he was playing for the money despite his dislike of Tibbs. I don't think McCall needs to be coddled. I just think he wasn't happy with the general situation. I would not describe Mikal Bridges as a player that needs coddling. Karl Anthony Towns needs to be handled like an infant. Thanks, Mongo Man. Next up. Nito Rahino, another one. Fantastic monologue. I do what I can here. Been watching KFS for years, but have never had the means to contribute until now. Always agreed with you about Tibbs, feeling vindicated. Do me a favor, man. Shoot an email to Knicks Film School at gmail.com. And yeah, just do me a favor and let just remind me that this was the super chat that you sent. And thank you. Thank you very much. Rich McLeod, what's going on, Rich? If you're having the same problems under two different coaches in under a year, it's the players. Something about this group has never smelled right. Rich, I saw your tweet. I would not define the problems that they're having now as the problems that they had under Tibbs. Respectfully, I would not define these. I never watched a game and they're like, this team has quit on Tom Thibodeau. I never once had that sensation, even as a guy who was decidedly pro Tibbs. I don't think that was unreasonable. And if again, I'm always happy to hear and try. I'm not always great at it, but I'm happy to always try to be open-minded when people are like, no, Macri, that's not the case. Or I'm working on it. I'm not great at it. I'm working on it. If there's someone out there who is like, yeah, I specifically remember a time last year when they quit on Tibbs, please remind me. And the fact that I had to be wondering that the entire game tonight, that's to me why it's different issues. Thanks, Rich. Jessica, what's going on, Jessica? The Straight Shot just had to run his full mouth on the damn radio, jinxed everything with his damn quotes. This was harder to watch than the Kemba era. Oh, man. That's a comp. I mean, it's not harder because Jalen Brunson is still with the franchise and, like, I'm sleeping easier at night knowing we have Jalen Brunson. And the team, it's crazy. They're still third in the East, which is insane to say. But they are. As far as, Dolan's running his mouth and that, look, I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Next up, you don't know. What's going on? You don't know. I agree about the Brown Cat disconnect, but I don't get how that explains why the entire rest of the team is playing like dog shit. I think they sense it. Again, if you have a job, if you go into your job every day and there is a disconnect between a major person in your company and the boss of the company, and that disconnect is perpetually out there. And it's like a black cloud that hangs over everything, where you're constantly hearing one person complaining about the other person. And then you have to deal with, okay, well, I hope our leader is like not buying into this petty squabble. And then you have to hear, and then Mike Brown's out there talking about after Draymond punks him, well, it's on Cat not to get those offensive fouls. I think there becomes a point when it becomes so overbearing, when it takes away your spirit, when it takes away your motivation because that's the other part of it. And I don't want to, I'm going to come off like old man on the lawn here, but I don't know how else to put this. In order to win basketball games, even against a team like the Mavs, you do need to go out there and try your hardest. Like, you need to go out. The reason why the Knicks should beat the Mavs is because they're better than the Mavs. And they're better than the Mavs because when they play up to their capabilities, they are better than the Mavs. Just like they're better than most teams when they play up to their capabilities. If you are not playing up to your capabilities and you are going out there like a dead man walking because you just don't want to be in work, you just don't want to be at your job, because it is just such a negative, nasty, shitty, toxic environment. That's what it looks like. You go out there and you play like that. That's why they're playing like dog shit. The whole situation is toxic, and it's infecting everything. That's my theory, at least. Thanks, you don't know. House effect, 0 minutes of Deuce or Mitch with the starting lineup. Yeah, I mean, look, there are things he could be doing differently. That's fair. If you want to say that when they started off like they started off, he should have instantly, done one sub or another sub, and he didn't do either of those subs, that's fine. That's fine. That's fair. So if you want to tell me that Brown is compounding the problem with some of his on-court decisions, fine. I'll give you that. It's fine. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? I don't know who they were. I'd rather not ever know. But for real, F the anti-Tibbs players. F them all the way up. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Good night. And we got one more from Dom. I don't blame Dolan as much. The blame goes on those who threw Tibbs under the bus. Congratulations. You now lost your second best player. Now good night for sure. Look, I don't need to say anything that you haven't already heard. Mikal got in front of the press conference, or in front of the reporters before the Portland game, and he said the exact things that he knew would get under his coach's skin. Exactly. Word for word. And it was the minutes thing, and it was set in his ways. He said the two things that he knew would be like daggers into the belly of the man. And then you had Precious Achiuwa coming out in a Bondi, gave an interview to Bondi a few days ago when he was asked about it, and he said, you can't say the bench underperformed if you never played the bench. So that's two players. And I strongly suspect there was a third. Thanks, Tom. Okay. Look at this. So Fred just texted me. Fred Katz, not be reporter. I keep screwing that up. National NBA reporter for The Athletic. I don't know if you know what that is. They write about sports. Very good website. Fred's very good. Very smart. Although, before I read Fred's text, I should probably take issue with the fact that he said on his Cats and Shoot podcast the other day that I had both of my testicles removed. Fred, when you get a vasectomy, they do not remove your testicles. Now, I don't know if you were absent today. They taught that in fucking biology class. But I'm telling you, the boys are still attached and well cared for. So watch your tongue, sir. Watch your tongue. That's all I got to say. Okay. Okay, so this is Fred texting me saying I could say that I'm not saying they removed the testicles in the vasectomy. I'm just saying they removed yours. It's just good. There you go. That's great. Okay. I'm not gonna have petty squabbles get in the way. Unlike the Knicks, I'm not gonna have petty squabbles get in the way of my ability to do my job. So I'm gonna move on, sir. Here, this is what Fred texted me. There were definitely individual players who quit on Tibbs, but they didn't quit on Tibbs at a group-wide level last season. They had questions about toughness all season. Tibbs and Mikal had issues. Other guys had issues with Tibbs, but they ended the year as a team that played hard and tough. There you go. There you go. Okay, another one. Vontez, I feel nothing. I hope this donation helps pay for the therapy. Every little bit counts, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Zach Zella. What's going on, Zach? Is it fair to wonder how much JB is even bought in? I think Jalen Brunson wants to win. And I think Jalen Brunson can sometimes can go about that in the wrong ways. You know, he's very Tibbsian in that sense, in that he at his core, he is like, he's so focused on, like, he knows he's good, you know, and that's why his default is to, like, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. So I don't think it comes out of selfishness. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because when Mike Brown has preached to Jalen Brunson repeatedly, you got to get off the ball, you got to get off the ball, you got to get off the ball. And there are times clearly this year that Jalen Brunson has not gotten off the ball. I think you could absolutely frame that as an issue of buy-in, and yet I see it as partially buy-in and I see it as something else. And I don't know what that something else is, but I think a lot of it, and here's where I'm ultimately going to come down on this. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Brunson knows that he works harder than anybody on the team. And it is hard for him at times to put his full trust in those that he knows are not as all about winning as he is. You know, and I imagine that to add to this Michigas, I'm sure that there are players on the team who are looking at Jalen a little bit sideways. You know, like, again, there's a lot. There are. I said it before. There were cracks in this locker room last year, and those cracks are evolving into fissures. You know, they just are. But, like, man, if you're someone, if you just think about it from this perspective, and then we'll move on. If there's a player out there who has a major issue with Jalen Brunson and what Jalen Brunson is out there doing on the court and what Jalen Brunson's about, ask yourself, what does that mean? What does that say about that player? You know? And where that player's motivations are and what that player's priorities are. I don't know. But I do think that there is jealousy, and I do think that there has been some jealousy for some time. And I also don't think it's from the players you might suspect. Thanks, Zach. BS. Be Smooth. What's going on, Be Smooth? I know it's easy to say trade for Giannis and bring in next player, but the issue currently can't be solved with just player acquisition. Look at the coaching, start from there, and you'll find the fix. Maybe. I think they just need someone else. I think they just need someone who's going to get along with Cat. And if they find someone who's going to get along with Cat, maybe everything could start to be fixed. But I don't think it's going to fix everything. You know, the thing they brought in Mike Brown to do, which is to get everybody going in the same direction, the opposite has happened. Thanks, Be Smooth. Drew Pack, what's going on, Drew? This team needs a table flipping, wake the F up vet. Who? No, not even just like who, but like, what do you want to bring back PJ Tucker? Is that your answer? I don't think that's gonna do it. I just don't. But maybe I think they're past that. I think they're past that. Maybe if you traded a prominent piece for a player like that, that might do something. But I don't think you're gonna make that move. Thanks, Drew. SKOE, is he Mike Nelson or Don Brown? 96 vibes. End it now. Yeah, the only problem is I don't think Jeff Van Gundy's on that bench. Maybe he is. But I don't see it. Thanks, SKO. Josh from Texas. What's going on, Josh? I'm defeated tonight, but just want to say that your piece after the Christmas Day game was just beautiful. You're a hell of a writer, and I enjoy the Substack a lot. Keep it up, Macri. Let's go Knicks. Josh, the check's in the mail. I appreciate that. That was a fun piece to write, and it was written out of necessity because it was a very not emotional day, but it was a day that I'll never forget. Despite how the season has come down, it was an awesome day, and it was a memorable Christmas. And mostly, I just thank you for reading and for those kind words. I love nothing more than my ability to write that newsletter every day. It makes me so happy. It's why no matter what happens in my life or in my career, never going to stop writing about the Knicks in some form or fashion, as much as it may frustrate me to do so at times. So really appreciate that. Thanks, man. Huck Frazier, what's going on, Huck? 0 minutes of Deuce or Mitch with the starters. So we got another comment on this. Those are some X's and O's that impact buy-in. Again, I'll give you this. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But how that team started again, you're telling me that they started off the way they started off, not giving a shit because they're like, our head coach won't play Deuce or Mitch with again, it's so many different, like they were broken when they took the floor. I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but thanks, Huck. Bayside Jr., what's going on, Bayside Jr.? Bring back Tibbs and trade McCall, who cried last year for Miles Turner. Who do these players want? Losing DiVincenzo was a mistake. JB and Cat want Tibbs, so be it. I don't know. I don't think McCall is the only guy that you would have to move. And actually, I don't even think McCall is the most important guy. I think there's some deep-seated stuff on this roster, and it's one too many things right now. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm wondering if a different coach would even. They may need a major shakeup, and not just Cat. They may need a more major shakeup. Let me just say this though. I would not trade away Bridges. I think Bridges, I will maintain this. I think Bridges is about the right things. I think he is ultimately a selfless player. I think he is about winning. And I don't think he is jealous of anyone else on the team or is worried about his shots. And I think for as much as he may frustrate us at times with what he gives us in exchange for the price that we paid for him, I don't think he ever dogs it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think he dogs it. Bayside Jr., thank you. True Genius. What's going on, True Genius? At the end of the day, this is still one of the most valuable teams in the NBA, and I don't think the front office will truly care until they start losing money. Well, the front office it's not worried about the money. It's the ownership. And Dolan doesn't like when his friends ask him, like, what's going on with the Knicks. He cares about the entertainment product. And when people go to his arena and they boo the team, the entertainment product is not what it needs to be. That's when he fires people. He fires people when there's boos and when he's showing up on back pages for reasons that he doesn't like. You know? So he got boos tonight. Thanks, True Genius. Sam F. What's going on, Sam? I've said before, you carry the mantle of Seth at Posting and Toasting. You're very kind, Sam. I don't. He created the mold. We're all just kind of copying what he did once upon a time. I wouldn't be here without him, but I very much appreciate that. Seth's greatest work came from painful Knicks losses. Yours does too. Thank you for holding all of this all of us when the Knicks break our hearts. I really don't want to be doing it. I'd much rather just be on here shouting like a crazy person over Knicks big wins and celebrating. It's much more fun for me. I know it might not, like it's weird. It like when a team is bad, you could actually make the argument in New York. This isn't the case in other places, but in New York, you could make the argument that if you're a content creator, when a team is bad, it's like better for business, which is that says a lot about us as New Yorkers. Mark shaking his head. He's nodding his head. Yes. What a weird brand of people we are. Seriously. If anyone was born or raised here, I don't know. I don't know why that is. But all that being said, I just, like everybody else, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. I'm going to write this newsletter. I'm going to go to sleep. The first thing I'm going to think of when I wake up tomorrow morning is how much they lost this game by and how decrepit they looked. And it's going to it's that feeling when you first wake up and you're like, it's the moment when you're like, oh, was that a bad dream? It's a split second when you're like, was that did I dream that? They didn't really just lose by 30 to the fucking Mavs. And then you're like, no, it wasn't a dream. And then you have to reconcile with the reality. And I guess the reason why, for me, it's not going to be as difficult as it has been in some years past is, one, you look at the team's record, you look at the personnel on the team, they're not in dead man's land. They're not like completely shit out of luck. And we still have a trade deadline 2 weeks away, and they could still potentially do something at the top with the coaching position. But I don't know. Thanks, Sam. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the generosity also. Flatulente, Yabu needs to earn his $5 million in Punch Cat. That's the best super chat of the night. Thank you. I don't advocate violence, and I hope he doesn't punch Cat, but that was very funny. Thank you. Canberry, what's going on, Canberry? When the Cat trade happened, OG said he thought the team was fine the way it was. That always stuck with me because I think players don't care for Cat. I don't know. I don't know how many players think he's worth the trouble. And I don't mean just on the court. I mean off the court too. Yeah. Thanks, Canberry. Italian Punk. What's going on, Italian Punk? Sadly, even if we move on from Brown, it's not going to be enough. Clearly, there's a split in philosophy and spot in the locker room. We'll see. I don't know. I suspect we may find out. I do think the problems run deeper than that. I do not know how easily solved those problems will be, though, is my gut. Thank you, Italian Punk. Brorante, what's going on, Brorante? Are the Knicks just fucking with us at this point? I feel like I'm in a fever dream. This is the wrong kind of fever dream. No, they're not. No, they're not. This is bad. This is real. This is very real, unfortunately. Thanks, Barante. Stop the panic. I would love to stop the panic. Alas, can't believe they're giving up on us like this. Brown can't manage the egos. Tibbs really had them locked in. Where do we go from here? Love KFS. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Man, it'd be a lot easier if Giannis put his finger on the scale and was just like, get me out of here now, dog. They almost blew a 20-point lead to Atlanta tonight or today, by the way. I don't know if anybody saw that. They got the win, but not exactly convincing. Yeah, it would be so much easier because I think I will just say this. I have arrived at the place now where if you told me that I was getting rid of Cat and OG and I was bringing in Giannis and whatever the fuck off of Milwaukee's team, I think the locker room issues that alone would solve would be worth any potential drop off in terms of what you're losing. Because, I mean, we could get into the X's and O's of how that would look and who would guard who and who would start and would there be enough spacing and this and that. I wouldn't worry about any of that. I would, at that point, I would know that I have a bunch of guys on my team who there was not going to be petty bullshit. There was not going to be one guy looking at another guy wondering, why is he getting shots and this and that. I would just, no one, I don't think anybody in the locker room would have to be managed. I would just do that trade in a heartbeat. Cat, OG, obviously, but here's the problem. Cat, OG, every draft asset you could do, fucking Diawara, even put in Deuce, which is the thought of which is abhorrent to me because he's the only guy who's consistently caring on the team, and talk about a guy being about the right things 24/7. But like, just for argument's sake, even if you put him in, I just don't. How much fear would, what is it, Octagon? That's Giannis's representation. I forget, whatever it is. How much fear would they have to sow across the league, and how much, how much would they really need to make things unpleasant within the Milwaukee organization to make that one happen? I don't, man. If you're Milwaukee and you're trading this guy, you can't. What you get back for him is it's going to make all the difference in terms of how the next decade of your organization is going to go. So yeah. And who knows? Maybe they're going to trade for Ja Morant and like fucking rocket up the East. You could. Nothing would shock me. Man. All right. Next up. Joseph, another one. Thank you, Joseph. Remember when Brown called New Year's Eve a gut check? Remember my super chat about the next 4 games? I do, Joseph. Pre-Pistons being huge, and you said the next 8. That was 10 games ago. Who could have imagined this nightmare? Wow. Yeah, sometimes, it's like I think Jeremy was trying to allude to it last night on the show, like the butterfly effect. Like one thing goes differently, and it can set off a cascading series of events. Again, the foundation of the team being what it is, very unstable, very shaky ground. House of cards. Thanks, Joseph. Mike Lasowski. What's going on, Mike? Thank you very much for the generous super chat. The older fans like me are having flashbacks to 95-96 when Don Nelson in year 1 post Pat Riley clashed with Ewing and was fired in March, which led to Jeff Van Gundy. I think Brown has to get axed to see if we could save the season. Again, it's the easiest thing to do by far. Before we go start trying to trade Karl Anthony Towns, if you could even trade him for a package that definitively lowers your ceiling as a team. I as I say that, I don't know if I believe it even. But before you even try to start to do that, is there a coach that can get this thing sorted out? Whatever the issues are in the locker room, I think there are issues which are solvable, and there are issues which are not solvable. And whatever other bullshit is between players and this and that, clearly last year, it was not at the point where it could not be a team that could get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think the hope has to be that if you bring in a coach and you get Cat on board and you get the version of Cat you need, and the team does start playing better, and there is just more positivity in the locker room, and guys don't go out there looking like they're, it's dead man walking, then the petty shit goes by the wayside, and then you could start making progress, and you can start playing good basketball again, and so on and so forth. That's got to be the hope. I don't know what other more realistic solution there is. Thanks, Mike. Z, you know? Let's go with that. At least McCall is being catered to this season. Well, I hope he's happy. Thanks, Z. El Coriano, Cat, Gaudier, and McCullough to the Bulls for Vooch, Kobe White, and Patrick Williams. The numbers work. I believe that they do. And again, the Bulls are the one team I look at where I'm like, are they desperate enough? Now, the thing that gives me pause about suspecting the Bulls would do that is there's been some recent reports that the Bulls are looking to pivot into a tank. They have lost, they've won actually. They're on a winning streak. They've won one game in a row. They're currently in 9th. I don't know. Are they actually going to tank? If they're going to tank, then they're not trading for Cat. So you want to talk about a salary dump? I mean, Vooch is just a guy I don't think you could win with at the 5. I just don't think you could win with him as your starting 5. Patrick Williams is bad money. Ridiculous extension the moment it was signed. It's bad now. And Kobe White's a guy. Kobe White's a real guy. He's a guy who's about to get paid, and you're either going to lose as a free agent, or you're going to have to figure out a sign and trade scenario, or you're going to have to pay that dude way more money than any team with Jalen Brunson should want to pay him. I don't know. Again, my first question is, does Chicago want Cat? That's my first question. We'll see. Thanks, El Coriano. Spence from the West. I will never unsee OG as Milton from Office Space. Sorry. I apologize for that. Thanks, Spence. Armand, Cat for LaMelo, bad enough for you? That's pretty bad. Hey man, guess who's not breaking up what they have going on right now? It's the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets are quickly becoming one of the best stories in the league. I don't say that facetiously. They have an even net rating. They're a great offense. Like, LaMelo seems to be playing as good as he could play, so. But yeah, that would, Armin, the way I feel right now, I don't even want to say. Thanks, Armin. Dan Swirsky's 2 months to figure it out. The standings don't matter. I think you misspoke there. I think they have 2 weeks to figure it out. I think they have 2.5 weeks. And I mean that when I say you got to figure out, is it the coach? And if it's not the coach, do you need to make a major shakeup right now? So it's not 2 months, it's 2.5 weeks. Because this thing, if you try to let sleeping dogs, or not, it's not sleeping dogs because they're not sleeping. The Knicks were asleep today, but still inappropriate analogy. If you just ride this thing out, again, they're 6.5 back of first. They're a game and a half up on the play-in. They're a game and a half up. I know you say standings don't matter. You want to be playing a fucking playing game? No. Thanks, Dan. Hush with another one. Do you think someone gets canned if we lose to Little Brothers on Wednesday? Assuming Mike Brown is still the coach on Wednesday? If they got beat by the Nets, looking like they did tonight, okay. Steve Popper, as I was about to answer the question, Mark, I can read this? It's from Steve Popper. You know what? Can we put this tweet up on the, do you want to get a picture of that? I think this is, take a picture of it. I will, this is worth reading aloud. Oh, this is courtesy of New York Basketball. Of course it's courtesy of New York Basketball because New York Basketball is the best Twitter account on the internet. Everybody watching this, I've gotten a lot of praise tonight. People saying they love KFS. If everybody watching this or listening to this tomorrow or whatever doesn't follow New York Basketball on Twitter at NBA_New York, do yourself a favor. It is the best of these accounts around. I know I've shouted them out a few times. They're on top of everything. It reminds me of when JB used to do this. JB didn't sleep. So they do such an amazing job. So this is the quote. Whispers around the league have begun to speculate on the possibility of the Knicks moving towns. His name surfaced when Bucks and the Knicks discussed the chance of a Giannis deal. Shocker! Mark, why didn't you tell me to take a deep breath before I read that? Oh my God, I almost had a heart attack. No. Cat was brought up as an outgoing piece in Giannis talks? I don't believe it. I do not believe it. Anyway. But now league sources say the talks have involved other teams, including Memphis, there's your Jaren Jackson Jr., Orlando, and ding, 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 Charlotte. So I want to go back to my live stream from the other day. So my live stream the other day, Memphis was one of my last three. I wonder if I still have that fucking piece of paper. Hold on. Because I literally made a list of all 30 teams when I did that live stream. I don't think I threw it out. Hold on. Give me a second here. Listen, we're having a fun time. Everybody could be a little patient, right? Okay. So Memphis was one of my last three teams because I was thinking Cat plus stuff for Jaren Jackson Jr. You take back KCP's bad money. You give Memphis your distant swap. Maybe you give Memphis a DOR, and maybe you give Memphis a deuce, and you do the Jaren Jackson Jr. So that's why they were one of my last three teams. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Charlotte was one of my final 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, where I'm like, there's enough there that I wanted to look at the salary cap and really, because like you could, again, it's Charlotte. You could talk yourself into a team like Charlotte that in their franchise history has never been to the conference finals. They have one playoff series victory in 30, 40 years, 30 something years as a franchise. And then you look at it and then you're like, oh, okay. But then what's the money coming back? And then it gets a little gnarly because I'm pulling up right now. No, that's 24-25. For one, assuming it's not LaMelo Ball coming back, and I do not think it would be LaMelo Ball coming back, you're talking about it's really tough to build up the money without Miles Bridges. And you want to be in the Miles Bridges business? I don't know if you do. Now, can you get to the money with brace yourself for these names? Colin Sexton, that's a good name. We like Colin. I've always liked Colin Sexton. Josh Green, who has barely played basketball this year and is not expiring, and you want to talk about a guy who's bad money, I think he has one more year left on his deal. Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, he's played in 19 games this year, averaged 15 minutes a game. Yeah, he's like a end of the at this point in his career, he's a very end of the bench player. And yeah, there's more money left on his deal. What, you know what, Jonathan? Why don't you use your brain and actually pull up the multi-year cap table instead of just looking at the 1 year? There you go. Okay. So yeah. Josh has another year at 14.6. And then you got Grant Williams and his $13 million. He's due 14.2 next year. And again, Grant Williams is a guy. How many games has he even played for Charlotte this year? Not very many. And if he has played in them, he's not a big player on their team. He's played in 4 games. So yeah, 4. So if you're building a trade around, let's say Sexton's 19, call it 19. And then Josh and Grant Williams get you to 27. So then you're 27, 37, 47 minus 146. So you're still 7 short. So then that's actually Charlotte. Sorry, you could send more money to Charlotte because they are not. Where are they at? They're at 168. So first apron space 20. So yeah, they could take back that additional money. So actually, could you do Sexton, Green? The fact that I'm going through this trade right now and naming these names for a guy who was almost an All-NBA second team player last year and is currently All-NBA third team or was All-NBA third team should tell you everything about where we are at right now. The fact that I am looking at the Charlotte Hornets multi-year cap table like fucking Moses looked at the 2 slabs of concrete. Got to follow this. This is where the answer is. It should tell you all you need to know. Sexton, Green, or Williams, Connaughton, and then, maybe Trey Mann. I don't know. I would need to put that into like some kind of a calculator. But it's basically, it's a salary dump. That's all it is. It's a salary dump. And maybe you try to get, they have a couple of young, who would love to get? Diabate. Shout out to Fred Katz. Wrote a whole article on how Moussa Diabate is like one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. Something tells me, guess what? The Charlotte Hornets probably don't want to give him up. And you just hope that the Hornets are like, all right, it's a talent play for us. We're going to pair LaMelo with a stretch 5, with Miles Bridges, with Con Knipple, who's the new face of their franchise. Hey, we could sell that starting 5. And Brandon Miller. Sorry, Brandon Miller. I forgot Brandon Miller. We could sell that starting 5. We could squint. But if that's where the Knicks are at, I told you this 2.5 hours ago. It would be a salary dump if they traded this player. And then Orlando, who was the guy who brought it up on the last post game? Pitched the Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr. trade that I haven't been able to stop thinking about for the last 2 days. Love that trade. But again, if you're Orlando, you're giving up one of the heart and like really the heart and soul of your team and Jalen Suggs. But this is where they're at. So clearly, if these whispers are out there, New York is looking at this situation and they are saying that this thing is so bad that we are having these conversations. Think about that. All right. Let's move on. We're going to be here all night. I feel bad. Mark's not feeling well, and we've been here for almost 3 hours. You're good, Mark? Okay. Hush Zoo. I read this one already. All right, let's move on. Fox 8 for your mortgage. Love KFS. Great monologue. Thanks, man. Thanks. You know what? I'm. Is there wood around here? No. Oh wait, yeah, I have a piece of wood right here. Thankfully, haven't defaulted yet. Shout out to Knicks fans everywhere. The fact that I get to do this for a living is the most absurd thing in the world. But thank you. Thanks, folks. Haitian Ferg, what's going on, Haitian man? I hope you're okay. I know how passionate about this team you are. Leon didn't fire Tibbs for this. No, he did not. Players have been emboldened to put their personnel stuff over the team, and Brown has lost them. Keeping the main thing comes at a cost. And right now, this looks like a team without direction. I mean, you summed it up pretty well, man. You summed it up pretty well. I don't have anything to add other than to say, again, as I've said in the past, and let me even go back a step. It's not just that Leon fired Tibbs. It's that he hired him too. And he hired him and he stuck with him. And you know what you're doing when you do that. You know what he's about. And you know when you give yourself over, when you give your organization over to that man, and they become him, and they become an extension of him on the court. You know, just like Taj and Luel and Joakim and eventually Jimmy and Derek, just like they were an extension of him in Chicago. Didn't quite get there in Minnesota, even though Taj and Jimmy were there. And then just like countless guys were an extension of him here in New York, you got to know, and look, maybe he didn't think that far ahead. And if he didn't, frankly, I'm not sure I blame him, but like, you got to know that if you ever pull the plug on that, there's going to be a cost. There's going to be a cost. Thanks, Haitian. Need more bourbon. Another one from Haitian. Thank you, man. Being results oriented over process driven is old school, but it works. Frustrating and insane at times, but results matter. We were told we were getting a better process, but the results are what they are. All right, look. No, I'm not gonna go there. I've resisted the urge. We're almost on 3 hours. I'm gonna finish this without making any new enemies. Thanks, Haitian. Mark, right? Yeah. Sergio Escobar, what's going on, Sergio? Epic post game. But what did the text you got say? I'm not. It's not my position to reveal it. Listen, I'll. You don't have to. Just that people aren't happy. Let's just leave it at that. People aren't happy, and the notion, and when you have adversity either unifies or it divides. And coming off of several straight losses, not only the Warriors game, but then the Phoenix game, I was just, the whole time I've been thinking, all right, clearly now this is adversity. And then it's like, all right, Brunson, Hart coming back. This feels like it might unify. And it hasn't. Thanks, Sergio. With another one, if they dump the coach and keep Cat, we are still fucked regardless. It wouldn't make sense. Hashtag dump Cat. Well, apparently they might be trying. Good hashtag. Let's get that trending. Danishevsky, why did OG not like Tibbs? Why are you doing that to me, Kev? Look, there's always been whispers. What does OG want? OG wants shots. OG wants shots, right? OG wants a big role in the offense because he thinks very highly of himself. We know this. This was reported before he ever got traded to the Knicks. And what did Tibbs have OG do? You go stand over there, right? You go stand over there, and occasionally, instead of standing over there, maybe we'll have you stand over here. And then if you stand over here, maybe if someone closes out on you hard and you have a whole open runway, then we'll let you do a couple of things, right? But no. Oh, that's why I'm not going to do the voice again. Sorry, Mark. But OG, I would suspect, felt like Tibbs was telling him, go to the fucking basement. And when you're a player who looks at a guy like Jalen Brunson and I don't know this for a fact, but I wonder what OG thinks about, because, and again, the reason I say that is because how did OG look when Brunson was out? He looked like a different guy, right? He looked like a different guy. He looked like he was given a shot of testosterone before those games. If I didn't know better, I would suspect it was almost like, oh, Brunson's out? You think we're going to fall flat on our face? Watch this. And then that dude went out and played, in fairness, at an all-NBA level for about a month. He really did. Now, did he struggle against the couple of better defenses that he faced over that time? Yes, absolutely he did. But he went out and he played the best basketball individually on offense of his Knick career. And then when Brunson came back, guess what? It was go get your fucking shine box again. All right. Thanks, Kev. All right. We got a bunch from Hush coming up, apparently. If Cat has the worst tendencies with his offensive fouls, or I know Cat has the worst tendencies with offensive fouls, but I can't help to think he is intentionally doing some of them, like the one in the corner along with just throwing up whatever at the rim. So you think he's intentionally doing offensive fouls? The fact that Karl Anthony Towns has made you think that he is intentionally committing offensive fouls says everything you need to know about Karl Anthony Towns. Thank you, Hush. Genuinely, another one from Hush. He has zero patience at the rim. He just throws up whatever. It doesn't look to turn and hook, doesn't look for the pump fakes. He just throws it up. I mean, I do think he's out of sorts. I don't know. Is there a part of it where it's like, I'm going to get up my shots, regardless of the push positions you put me in to get my shots up? What does Brown want Cat to do? I don't got to tell you. Just listen to Mike Brown. Mike Brown told you after the last game, we want him to pass it more. When the attention comes, pass. Pass. Maybe Cat doesn't want to pass. Maybe Cat wants to shoot. Another one from Hush. Bring me back to 23-24, man. We had it so good, J-Mac. Yeah, well, I said it at the time. I said, team made me shed tears of joy. That was a fever dream. To quote, who was it? Howard Beck's piece for The Ringer. That was a fever dream. And one more from Hush. How do the Knicks always get these head cases? Randall, Cat, Marbury, Jackson. I'm assuming you mean Phil Jackson? Was Steven Jackson ever a Knick? I don't think he was. Larry Brown, Isaiah Thomas. I get no one is perfect, but every era, what should look great on paper, it always turns to shit. The one thing I'm going to say, though, about Randall. Randall was a head case, and I was not sad to see Randall go. They made it work. The guys in the locker room made it work. Randall, for as off his rocker as he was, and this is, again, you want to talk about owning up to when you were wrong. I was absolutely wrong. I was just so happy to be done with the on-court frustrations of Randall that I never gave enough credence to how much in the locker room I never had to worry about guys like Brunson and Hart or any of those guys looking at Randall and not having to worry and not having to question whether when he went out there on the floor, he was going to give it his all, even if it didn't always look like that because he got in his own head so much sometimes. I'm not going to sit here and say that like Julius Randle was always about the right things as a basketball player, but man, that guy gave a fuck all the time. And he pushed himself every offseason to get better and better and better and better. Someone tell me how Karl-Anthony Towns has improved as a basketball player in the last decade in a meaningful way. In a meaningful way. Julius Randle broke his fucking leg his first quarter as an NBA player. He didn't let that stop him. I can't believe I'm going on it. This is what this loss did to me. I'm going on a fucking Julius Randle soliloquy now. But like seriously, the Lakers told him, you just had your best year of your career here. You finally made good on the promise that got us to pick you 7th. Good. Fuck off. We're not even going to give you a qualifying offer. He goes to New Orleans, who has the best year of his career in New Orleans. New Orleans wants to go in a different direction. They're like, yeah, you know what? We're moving on from AD as a franchise. We're going to let you go. We don't want to pay you. Comes to New York. He's absolutely one of the scapegoats on that team. It wasn't good, to be clear. He wasn't good, but he had no spacing to work with. Goes into the summer. Tibbs tells him, hey, I need you to be XYZ. If you are XYZ, you're my guy. Comes back. What does he do? XYZ, All-NBA second team, 8th in MVP voting. Every step of the way. You know, even the recent stuff. Like, again, I have joked about it. He cut out a part of his life that was detrimental to him, you know, and you see the results on the court. Thank Mark's pointing out he won most improved. Like, so like when you have a guy like that that's always willing to put in the work, and you know at the end of the day, like they do want to win basketball games, like they really care a lot about winning basketball games. You could work with that. You know, you could work with that. I don't know if you could work with this. Thanks, Hush. Vince, are the Steve Popper cat rumors legit? I don't know. I mean, I'll see if I can get Pop on here this week. How funny is it, by the way, that when I had sorry, I just got a text from my wife. Your live stream is taking forever. Must be really bad. And then she sent another text. The Knicks, I mean. God. 3 hours. Certainly never had to worry about this problem with my wife. Okay. So I'll try to get Popper on here. I don't know if he's going to be available, but I'll try. Popper's a great reporter. He doesn't put shit out there. And by the way, I shouldn't single out Popper. We are lucky enough in New York to have the most reliable selection of beat reporters in the business. Steve Popper, Stephen Bondi, Ian Begley, once upon a time Fred Katz, before Fred Katz decided that he wanted to quit his real job and enter fantasy camp. And now James Edwards III, all A+, top of the line beat reporters. So if they put something out there, they're it's real deal stuff. Anyway, imagine if my dream trade actually happens. I feel like I'm getting sent out. So you were the guy that proposed the Orlando trade. I forgot it was you. Credit to you, man. It's a great trade. I don't know if it's realistic, but it's a great trade. Thanks, Vince. Danishevsky. Robert W. Cross. Why isn't Robert chiming in here? Wants to know if you listen to his study hall on repeat. Ever since he said it, ever since it was on, I just have had headphones in my ears the whole time listening to the sweet sounds of Robert Cross. Can you imagine if my wife was like, "Hun, Isabel's on the iPad again. What are you doing?" I'm sorry, babe. You gotta give me a minute. I'm listening to Robert Cross on Study Hall. I'd be getting served with fucking divorce papers yesterday. No offense, Robert. Anyway, okay. Thanks, Kev. I really do need more bourbon. LDS, Cat for Vooch and Giddy ain't so bad now. LOL, Lee. Yeah, no, I just don't think the Bulls would do it. Why would they do that? Why would they give up Josh Giddey? Josh Giddey's an important part of their team. Thanks, LDS. Ben Kim Gervy with one. How you doing, Ben? What's going on, man? Flawed build. We've seen they can be great. It's on them to decide to do it. Plus Brown to figure it out. Pull together or pull apart. Hashtag montage time. You think they could still pull together? Honestly, you think they could still pull together? The fact that I'll just say this. The fact that that cat thing got out there to Popper now, or I never want to purport to know how beat writers do their job because I never was, and I've never pretended to be one or a journalist of any kind. But like, I how could I say this? I know from past experience that sometimes, and if Fred's still listening, you text me with a correction if this is wrong. But I feel like sometimes a beat reporter might get something where it's like, but they're for a variety of reasons, they might not be at liberty to go forward with it at the time, either because they don't have it locked down or because it's like it is said to them with like, you can't, this is off the record and you can't go forward with it, which obviously any journalist worth their salt is going to honor. But I think the way it works is then sometimes at a later time, for whatever reason, again, variety of reasons that I'm not going to pretend to know because I've never done the job, you could then go forward with the thing. Either way, the fact that Popper went forward with this tonight after that game speaks almost as loudly to me as the report itself. Because it is a sign that this thing that tonight was a seminal moment. So again, I'm going to try to get Steve on, and I'm going to try to ask him about it in as direct a way as I can, and we'll go from there. Jessica, OG quote. Should I do it in the voice? All right, I'll try. Hey, that's my stapler. I don't like when you use my stapler. I don't like it. I don't want to go to the corner. I like my desk. Okay. You're going to be sorry. That's good, Mark. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Okay, can we mercifully finish this up? Steven Santiago, they just handed $40 million to Brown. Was it that much? I don't even know. I'll take your word for it. With that said, that will be pocket change compared to the money they can miss out on if things fall off a cliff. The money might matter here. The money might matter here. You know what, Steven? That's a fair point. I mean, what did Dolan pay Larry Brown? The fuck did he pay him? What was that? 5 for 25? Mark, do you remember that? Hold on. Larry Brown Knicks contract. I mean, he was no. Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused with Phil. Phil was like 5 for 50 or something to be the. Oh my God, no! I'm not confusing it with Phil. 5 for 51. I had forgotten that. I cut it in half. And I was in the back of my head, I'm like, no, was it 5 for 50? And I'm like, no, that couldn't have been. It was. I think maybe Phil was 15 a year, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. In any case, the owner's done it before. And that team wasn't close to being a championship team. So I don't know. And there's probably some opt-outs and different thing. It's never, the money is maybe never, I always question when money is reported, if there's, team options or this and that. Anyway. Thanks, Steven. Drew P or Drew Pack. What's going on, Drew Pack? If Cat is too hard to move, what about bringing in a guy like Sam Cassell? So like bringing in someone to as a head coach, maybe, I don't know. Look, if we have to get past Brown first before we talk about who to replace him with. Bringing in Doc for Adrian Griffin was like unprecedented to go outside the organization. But then again, it wasn't really outside the organization because Doc had been consulting with them. So like the notion that they're going to go bring in, I'm trying to think the last time some team did that. When the last time some team truly brought in someone from outside the organization to bring in the head coach? Again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was when the Kings brought in George Karl. When they fired, was that when they fired Mike Malone? Kings hired George Karl. No, they replaced Ty Corbin. And speaking of Ty Corbin, what did Ty Corbin do to get on Fred Katz's shit list? But yeah, George, that was Karl. Yeah. So look, if you're doing something that hasn't truly been done since the Kings did it, you probably don't want to do it. So my guess is they would replace Brown with someone on the bench, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they got a Cat trade lined up. All right, we got a couple from Mink Daddy, which we know who that is. John comparing himself to Moses is an all-timer. Fred, fuck off. I'll compare myself to whoever I goddamn well want to compare myself to. Let's see. Do you think? Oh wait, no, hold on. What odds would you give me to know all 10 commandments right now, Mark? What do you think? You want to give me a shot? Put your over under in the chat right now. What's your over under? 7. Jesus. Okay. Can you Google them and get them up on the thing? Okay. Here we go. You ready? Thou shalt not steal. No, thou shalt not kill. Is that one? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's ox or similar animal. Yeah, possession. You're giving me an okay. So that's 3. Hold on. Give me a sec. Thou shall honor the Sabbath. Go to church. Looking it up. Survey says no, not honor the Sabbath. Come on, there's got to be something. No, he doesn't see it. What about thou shalt honor thy father and mother? Is that one of them? That's one. Okay. Thou shalt believe in one God, like only one God. That's one of them. Okay, is that 5? That's 5. No, I did the honor thy father and mother and believe in one God, and then the 2 covets and the kill. So that's 5. And then what? I got 2 more. I think I might be out. Is there another obvious one? There's another obvious one. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. I don't know. I don't know what they are. Let's see. No other gods before me. Shall not make unto thee any graven images. Wouldn't have gotten that. Not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. I should have known that one. Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Hold on. I got 6. Honor thy father or mother. Great. Thou shalt not kill. Got that. Adultery, steal, bear false witness against thy neighbor, and thou shalt not cover. All right. You know what? I combined a couple of them. I got there. I got there. No, I remembered the one you should not want to fuck your neighbor's wife. I remembered that one. That's the one I always remember. You don't want to go against that one. Thanks, Fred. You're responsible for that little diatribe. And now another one. I don't think you can hypothetically trade Cat without getting a center back in some fashion, considering Mitch's injury history. I mean, I'm sure they'd love to ask for Kalkbrenner. And if I was Charlotte, I would be like, no, I don't think so. So, are you Diabate, is he your starting center? Or are you doing some kind of a 3-team deal? I'm trying to think what other distressed center assets are there across the league, and doesn't feel like there's a lot. I'm sure they're asking for Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner was a 2nd-round pick. He's good, but he's really good. Is he still leading the league in field goal percentage? He might be. I don't even know. Kalkbrenner stats. Kalkbrenner's really good. He's shooting 77% from the field. Yeah, he's good. Anyway, yeah, that's a good point, Fred. Thank you. All right. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? There's Kaiden Randall highlights on X for anyone who needs to pick me up. I saw those, actually. Good for him. Will win one when he's playing 30 minutes per game under Tibbs in 15 years. That's great. Thanks, Juanon. Tell the truth. There's a world where we lose to the Nets now. Absolutely. They could lose to any team the way they're playing right now. If they don't address what needs to be addressed. I mean, look. If they came out and laid an egg against the Nets after this, then then it's. I'm trying to think. How would I react if they came out and they blew the Nets out? They won by 30 against the Nets. How would I feel? I don't know. I would have to see it first. Thanks, tell the truth. And then we got the last one from Hush. Can you answer this honestly? I will never lie to you. Let's say we trade Cat. Does that bring the care and effort back into the team, or will certain players still slump around? I don't know. My guess is that not everybody. Well, I don't know. I would hope I would hope that it would help solve some things. I also don't know if, again, like what you saw tonight, do they really have this? And then this brings me back to the Kings game, which is like, if ever there was a game where you were going to come out and like win one for the Gipper, and they just didn't. I just think the question comes down to this: are they out on Brown, or are they out on the current state of things? And if the current state of things changes, then maybe there would be in on Brown enough. I don't know the answer to that question, Hush. I don't know. I know what I want to believe, but I don't know that for a fact. I wish I could give you better. I'm sorry. Thanks, Hush. All right. So we conclude the longest post game of this year, of course. I told you, Mark, it was going to be one of those. I want to give a huge shout out to one person and one group of people. The person that I want to give a shout out to is Mark Roskas, who is feeling like dog shit. And I'm sure there's nothing he would have rather done for the last 3.5 hours, I guess 6 hours, if you include the actual basketball game, than lay in bed and rest up, because he's not feeling well. And I just want to shout out to him for being on the ones and twos, because I could have not done this by myself. Not only because he looked up the 10 Commandments for me. And number two, I want to really shout out Knicks Nation. And I don't do this enough, considering y'all allow me to do this, but I will do it now. And I'm gonna try as best as I can to end on a high note. We have been to the absolute bottom of the barrel. There has never been any worse sensation in my life, really none. Because I'm lucky enough that all the people that are like the most important people to me are still here, and I've had a blessed life with my wife and kids. There has been nothing that has ever made me feel as down in the dumps as the Knicks have made me feel at times in my life. And that is probably a very sad statement to make for a 42-year-old man. It's also true. And they are right now in a really bad way. They are about in as bad a way as you could possibly be. All hope is not lost. And all hope is not lost because there is still a lot of talent on the roster. You know that because of how they looked a month ago. And you still got a guy in Jalen Brunson who I think is worth believing in. And you still got a couple of other guys on that roster who I think are worth believing in a big way. And they're very out of sorts. Very out of sorts. But we have been down. We've been down way worse, to the point where it wasn't. We'd been down so bad that it wasn't even worth getting upset about or worked up over about or paying attention to, because the team stunk so bad. Why would you devote any of your emotion to where they were? And I know I've alluded over the last couple post games to like, I'm kind of apathetic towards this team at this point. I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not. There's something here that they could rescue. I believe that there is something here that they could rescue. I don't know who needs to get traded or who needs to get fired or what for it to be rescued. I think it can be rescued. And I'm going to try to end on that positive note. But again, these are not easy times. And for every person who tuned in tonight, let alone everybody who sent in a super chat and helped make the show a great one, appreciate all of you. Truly, I do. And let's hope that the powers that be figure it out, because it would be a fucking shame for this thing after everything that has been put into this. It would be such a shame for it to end like this. Let's go out on our terms. Don't go out like this. Seriously, don't go out like this. You've come too far and you've been through too much. Don't go out like this. And I hope there's a way to do that. And I hope they have the wherewithal to see that. And yeah, that's all. All right. Be back with more fun and games before you know it. Oh, hold on. We got one more. Sergio Escoval. Name the one person that has Cat's back on the Knicks. You're asking, is that a legit question or is that rhetorical? I don't have anybody. Honestly, I don't think anybody does. Just that's the God's honest truth. Again, that's not to say that everybody hates him or something, or they think he's a bad guy. But like, do I think anybody's like in that locker room is like, man, Cat's getting the shaft here. He's got a raw deal. I don't think anybody thinks that. I don't think anybody thinks that. So, all right. Well, so much for ending it on a positive note. All right. Thanks, everybody. Follow us at Knicks Film School, SKOL. Subscribe, rate, review, all those things. Patreon, Substack, the whole deal. And then, obviously, subscribe on and turn on your alerts on YouTube. We're done. Let's hope for better times ahead. Talk to you soon. Peace out.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.